KSL News Radio, I'm Tim Hughes, and our top story this hour, we're learning more about the Juab County crash that sent 5 people to the hospital, including a UHP trooper. One of the people involved has died. They were in the car that lost control and crashed into the trooper's car parked on the side of I-15. The trooper has been released from the hospital. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, a Washington, D.C. appeals court has just issued a ruling saying that former President Trump does not have federal immunity against prosecutions now that he's out of office. Other news, KSL is following a new report in Maui says the emergency responder staff was a quarter of what it should have been when the wildfire started. ABC's Mololengi says that the extreme nature of the wildfires overwhelmed first responders.
This after-action report by the Maui County Police Department focuses specifically on the police response to what was the worst natural disaster in Hawaii history and the deadliest wildfire in America in over a century. Investigators determining it was a perfect storm of high winds, quickly moving flames, almost zero visibility, downed power lines into roadways, making the few evacuation routes that exist nearly useless.
100 people were killed in the fires. Over 3,000 homes, businesses, schools, churches, and other buildings were destroyed. Your money at this moment, the markets continue to be mixed. The Dow is up about 57 points now, a little more than a tenth. The S&P is down just a fraction. It's off 1, and the NASDAQ this hour is down about 26 points. Coming up, today's going to be cloudy with some more rain. Matt telling us that it will likely happen later in the evening. Hopefully after your afternoon drive, we'll check the weather next. KSL News Time 9:02. News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Hey folks, it's Doug and Kathy with Window World.
Doug, can you believe it's been 20 years?
What's been 20 years?
Well, since we opened our first Window World store.
That is amazing. Our motto today is the same. Quality products, professionally installed, backed up by our awesome warranty.
And our team shares those very same values.
Come see us today. We have stores in Murray and Spanish Fork for your convenience.
Experience the Window World difference. Call 801-281-8111 or visit windowworldutah.com.
And we promise no baloney.
When's the best time to plant a tree? It was 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? It's now. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I remember years ago being sent home from elementary school with a small tree in a styrofoam cup. I know some of you can relate. If that was planted, it's now bigger than you are. Your finances are the same way. The best time to get started, or the best time to get a second opinion, is now. And with time and patience, imagine how big your financial tree could be. 20 years ago, if you invested $1,000 in Apple stock, it could be worth over $500,000 today. That is a big tree. Do that for you and do that for someone you love. Call Trajan Wealth today and help us help you plant that financial tree.
Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600. Or visit TrajanWealth.com.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and we all loved and grew up with the game. Now you're going to love the show. It's on the stage at Hale Center Theater right now, and it's called Clue. It is so funny, so clever, and I've got to tell you this. I love plays that include slow motion scenes, I'm not kidding you, and even rewind scenes. And if you're looking for the best death scene ever witnessed on the stage, it's waiting for you right now at Hale Center Theater in Clue. But there's so much more coming up in the 2024 season, and that includes Fiddler on the Roof. That's coming up next. Sound of Music, May We All, a country musical, The Time Machine, The Nutty Professor, Aladdin, The Magician's Elephant, and Beauty and the Beast. It's going to be a great season at Hale Center Theater. Go to hct.org to get your season tickets, individual tickets, and of course, gift cards.
Manwell Plumbing and Heating has been a trusted name in the Salt Lake area for over 100 years. Since 1920, we have provided plumbing, heating, and air conditioning services in our area. Hello, I'm Brian Jackson, fourth generation of our family-owned and operated business business? We promise to provide honest service, competitive pricing, and the most knowledgeable plumbers, technicians, and sales staff around. The next time you're in need of any plumbing, heating, or air conditioning service or repairs, call the company you can trust. Call Manwell Plumbing and Heating today, 801-262-4671.
Traffic and weather together is brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Michelle's back in the traffic center.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, we still have some leftover delays for drivers making their way northbound I-15. Highway Patrol working on a crash that's just north of SR 92 Timp Highway, off to the left shoulder, but you're still going to see people slowing down a little going through that area. More delays as you're going from Draper into Sandy and then again to the south interchange. Last delay as you're making your way into downtown is going to be from South Salt Lake toward downtown. Big O Tires is locally owned and operated in Utah now through February 19th. Get up to $160 off select tires, sets of tires after mail-in rebate. Big O Tires, the team you trust. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
The rain's going to continue this week. Highs will drop into the 40s for the remainder of the week, heading into the weekend. But today, we're going to be in the lower 50s. Could see snow, however, by Wednesday evening and then carrying through on Friday, so keep that in mind for the Friday morning drive. Right now, just cloudy downtown and 43 degrees from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. I'm Tim Hughes. Remember to listen online at kslnewsradio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
All right, we're just trying to sort through this President Trump decision by a lower court. We're learning that he has until Monday, so just a few days away, to appeal this ruling. It ruled against him to the Supreme Court, Dave.
Yeah, he was looking for presidential immunity for January 6th. So basically anything that happens while you're president, he was claiming that is protected and that he has just blanket immunity. The lower court said, no, we don't read it that way. So as you said, Deb, he has until Monday to appeal to the Supreme Court. It's 9:07. It's time for the launch.
Sequence engaged.
And brought to you by Mountain America Credit Union. Here are the 3 things that Debbie wants you to know.
Countdown. 3.
I have been just chewing on the state of maternity leave in Utah ever since we talked about it yesterday when you were out for the day in our 10 o'clock hour. So we're going to have in-depth analysis in our 11 o'clock hour about the landscape of paid and unpaid leave for new moms from an expert who has been studying this very issue. I love it. You know, we had Representative Candace Perucci on the line yesterday in our 10 o'clock hour from Capitol Hill, Dave, and this is what got me fired up about our fight as women to explain why we need time to heal after birthing a human. It's just unreal to me. She called to talk about her pitch to require public schools to pay for 3 weeks of maternity leave for teachers. But there's a lot more to this than public school teachers.
We're saying, listen, you need to give people paid maternity leave. It's just 3 weeks. If you go to Chick-fil-A or anywhere else in the private sector, it is more than that.
I almost laugh. Like 3 weeks after having a baby, that doesn't even feel like an edgy take. Like, of course that should be the standard. Now, where my mind goes, though, is, okay, if it's a state, if it's a big company, they can do that fairly easily. They can absorb the cost. They can absorb the loss of worker, so to speak. But if you're a small company, maybe you're under 10 employees, can you absorb that cost? Can you absorb that lack of production?
Countdown. 2.
Salt Lake City is safer than it's been in a while. That's what the chief of police and the mayor are telling us, that there's been a sharp drop in crime in the last year. So we're going to take all of this data that they gave us, and we're going to zero in on one community. Let's go to the Ballpark neighborhood. That's where the Bees play now. You know, they're going to leave a big stadium behind at some point. But there's also been where there's been a big drop in crime reported. And we'll ask a resident who lives there if the numbers match how they feel about things.
In the Ballpark neighborhood, we saw a 32% decrease in violent crime in 2023.
Okay, so this is the number one question I have. Why? What happened? What did you do? Did you crack down? Did you flood the streets with cops? Is this just lucky? Because if you can't explain to me how you got these results, none of it matters. Because crime's going to ebb and flow up and down. So you have to be able to point to me exactly what you did to get that result.
Launch countdown 1.
Utah lawmakers looking at a proposal to make it harder to pass initiatives into law. Now, initiatives are generated from regular old Utahns like us, instead of elected lawmakers. Now, some of the most recent initiatives to pass recently were, legalizing medical marijuana in the state of Utah. That passed by 52% of the voters said yes. Expanding Medicaid coverage to folks who are below the poverty line. That passed by 53% of the vote. Redistricting.
That was a close one.
50.3% of the vote.
50.3.
Passes.
A simple majority is not going to get it done anymore. Now, I'm a little torn on initiatives, Deb. I kind of like that if the legislature ignores us, the people, that we can ignore them. We can outflank them and pass something anyway.
Dave and Dujanovic.
The launch.
Commence.
So there are two paths to a law right now in Utah to make a law. There's a couple of ways that laws can get passed in the state. So let's go into that first. Let's start there. The first one is pretty straightforward. It's through the legislative process.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, we're going schoolhouse rock on you. The second way is to make a law through the initiative process. It is a tricky, difficult 13-step process. Initiatives end up directly on the ballot, and then we, the voters, get to say yes or no. This new proposal, Dave, would make it even harder for initiatives to become law by requiring them to pass by at least 60% versus what it is now, a simple majority.
And that's important because of those three initiatives, all that passed, none of those hit this criteria: medical marijuana, Medicaid, or the redistricting initiatives. None of those hit this 60% mark. Now, the question is that a good thing? I actually like it when it's harder to pass legislation.
It's not easy to become a law, is it?
No, but how I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
It's not supposed to be easy to pass a bill. One of the problems I think we have when we make it easier to pass bills into law or initiatives into law is it's kind of that simple majority thing. Well, when you are in power, if you have a narrow lead in the legislature or you just barely pass it by the people, well, then like redistricting, 50.3, that means 49.7 didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, there was no agreement. There was no compromise that happened. We just passed it because we had the majority.
Okay. But there's a lot of people who would think this is a simple power grab by Utah lawmakers to make it tougher for the voice of the people to be heard.
Fair.
For people to be able to get an initiative to the ballot in the first place is a tricky process. And then when you get it there, you have to get 60% of voters to agree. Look, let's take Medicaid expansion as an example. Utah lawmakers sat on their hands for years, and then the average Joes out here had enough of what was going on up there. And in 2018, we as voters went to the polls and approved a slight sales tax increase to fund Medicaid expansion for people who are under 65 years old and need it because they're sick and they're below the poverty line and they cannot afford medical care. So voters decided the right thing to do was help those people out by expanding Medicaid coverage to them. Well, that passes with what, like 53% of the vote. Under this plan, we would have had to collect 60% of the vote to get that passed. And that just sounds like a huge power grab by lawmakers to make it unfair for residents and taxpayers and voters in this state to get anything that they want passed. I have some deep, deep concerns about this, and I need to get more information from it about it.
Because they didn't make it harder for themselves to pass legislation.
Right.
My whole point of I want it to be harder kind of unravels when they still keep their standard super easy. We'll just pass it by a majority. But you, the people, have to have a 60% supermajority.
Let's get the rest of this story. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There is much more to this story. Wait until you hear what Taylor Morgan of KSL at Night has to tell us about it.
Dave and Dujanovic.
A lot of us are filling our workdays with podcasts.
When you're working, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
Click on Dave and Debbie's podcast and pick a topic and story length.
Podcast with Dave and Debbie. Then get to work with KSL News Radio.
Our lives are full of choices these days.
Some are less important.
Look at all these shows and movies. I don't know what to watch. But other choices are key to the way we understand the world and our place in it.
When you select KSL, listening on Alexa or in the car,
You've made the right choice.
you could choose to do nothing. You could opt out.
So thank you for engaging, for choosing this station.
KSL News Radio.
15 years ago, we were adding on to our home, and so I convinced Sean we should update the kitchen.
We did some research and we decided to go with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. Their reputation was phenomenal. To design, do the construction and the finish work, what we wanted was what we got from start to finish. So fast forward 15 years, our family's changed. We've gotten bigger.
There just wasn't the space in the kitchen anymore. People were banging into each other.
We decided 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. Here's the problem. What are our solutions? Comparing working with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath 15 years ago, today, their ability to design what you want was the same.
Everything has been what I want.
The quality of 3-Day Kitchen and Bath, I think, is phenomenal. The countertops and the cabinets that they use are great. They were just good guys doing good work.
For more about your new kitchen or bath, visit 3daykitchen.com.
3-Day Kitchen and Bath. Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try soon. Harry's is available online and in-store at a retailer near you. Get a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/news. That's harrys.com/news. Or check us out at your local Costco for a price you can't find anywhere else. Just look for the Chrome Razor with 13-blade refills at your local Costco. You can't miss it. Exclusive to Costco members.
Many people, Amanda, I think, start each new year with one of two resolutions. One is to lose weight. The other is to save money.
Yeah.
And if you struggle to do that in the past, UCCU has an automatic way to help you.
I have used these wonderful savings goals, savings accounts at UCCU so many times. In fact, I just set one up. It's so easy. You just go and you tell it, what are you saving for? So right now I'm saving for a senior trip for my youngest son. Mm-hmm. And I tell it, I have until June of 2025. I want to save this much money. And then it will tell you, all right, well then every month or every other week or whatever you want to do, you have to set aside this much and it will automatically take it out of your savings account.
You can have as many accounts as you want, name them whatever you want. And let's just say you want to save $600 this year.
Right.
$50 a month will automatically go in and you're reaching your goals. You haven't done a thing.
This is the way to save money and not feel it, which is a way to be successful.
So to get started, just log in to their online or mobile banking and click on any of the goals to begin.
UCCU.com. Utah Community Credit Union. Love where you bank.
Getting your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt can lead to some spirited reactions.
Jackson Hewitt!
Jackson Hewitt is so sure that you'll get your biggest refund that if they don't, you get your money back plus $100.
Jackson Hewitt!
And Jackson Hewitt also guarantees the accuracy of your return for life.
Hewitt!
So don't just sit there. For your biggest refund guaranteed, walk into a Jackson Hewitt today and dance out Jackson Hewitt, yeah!
Hey, Joe Montana here. Back in my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia, a bacterial lung disease that can be life-threatening. If you're 65 or older, or 19 or older with certain chronic conditions like diabetes or asthma, you're at increased risk. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination and learn more at knowpneumonia.com. That's KNOW pneumonia.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, former President Donald Trump.
Dujanovic. Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Let's go in depth on this citizen-led lawmaking issue that could make it harder for us to get, initiatives passed into law. So right now, there's a new proposal on Capitol Hill that Dave and I have been talking about, and lawmakers want ballot initiatives like medical marijuana, Medicaid expansion, redistricting, if they require some sort of a tax, and that's where things get a little bit muddy. So Medicaid expansion required a tax. Mm-hmm. It was a little bump in the sales tax.
Yeah, 0.15, I think.
So that's a really pretty good example of what we're talking about. It passes with around 53% of the vote. Well, if this move by lawmakers ends up on the November ballot, it would be a constitutional amendment. And if that passes by the will of the people, it would require any initiative get 60% of the vote to pass. Right now, it just requires a simple majority, which is that 50%.
Yeah, so it would require 60%, which is the standard right now for passing laws in the Senate. Like the Senate has to agree largely. 60% of senators have to back a bill. That's federally. That's not here on the state level. But in general, I'm not a huge fan of initiatives. It feels like we're cheating the system a little bit. The system is we elect representatives, representatives make the laws. So initiatives have always felt like a little bit of an end around, a little bit of a cheat. Initiatives are truly democratic versus a republic. And the old joke about the democracy. It's two wolves and a lamb voting on what's for dinner.
I'll just boil this down even more. This just sounds like a power grab to me by power-hungry lawmakers. Taylor Morgan, KSL at Night, also a lobbyist on Capitol Hill. After you helped us sift through the mud today on this, because this just got really complicated, in my view, when I started, once you sort through all the mud and we figured out what we have here, at the end of the day, this sounds like a power grab. What are people on Capitol Hill saying about this, besides the lawmakers?
Well, Dave, Debbie, great to be with you. Really appreciate your attention on what I think is a really important issue that the Utah legislature is considering right now. Just for full disclosure, I do lobby on Utah's Capitol Hill, and on this issue, I am representing some Utah-based election groups such as Count My Vote, Utahns for Responsive Government, that are very concerned about this legislation. So I just want to put that disclosure front and center. But what's happening here is Utah's right, the voters' right to create or remove law via petition or referenda is constitutionally protected here in Utah. Utah is one of several states that has a constitutional guarantee giving voters the right to create law via initiative. Now, the Constitution also defers to our state legislature on how exactly that process works. And as we know, Debbie, as you have pointed out, Utah has the most difficult, demanding requirements to qualify an initiative for the ballot than any state in the entire country. It is incredibly difficult to get an initiative on the ballot. You have to collect 135,000 valid signatures from voters throughout the state. They have to be exactly distributed in 26 of our 29 state Senate districts. It is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly expensive. And this legislation would then require ballot measures that pass all of those very high hurdles. It would then require them to pass by 60% on the ballot. Now, lawmakers only have to pass legislation by 50% in both the House and the Senate. And when was the last time that we had a statewide candidate or a U.S. senator, another candidate, win by 60% or more on a general election ballot? It is an incredibly high bar already when it is so difficult to get an initiative on the ballot in the first place.
So, is this supposed to affect only initiatives that have some sort of monetary or tax increase?
Yeah, Dave, that's a great question. The way that this language is written right now, it would apply to any initiative that creates a tax, a state tax, or increases the rate of an existing tax. There has been some debate on the Hill about how that would exactly be interpreted if it were passed. Would that apply to any statewide initiative? Because usually any initiative will carry what's called a fiscal note, meaning it will spend taxpayer money if it's passed. So there is some debate about that back and forth, Dave. I am not an attorney, so I can't really interpret that. But the fact that there's any ambiguity at all, I think, is also a big problem.
So the idea, let's just use the three of the more recent initiatives that have passed here, medical marijuana, Medicaid coverage, and redistricting. So Medicaid coverage would seem very clear-cut. You know, you're looking to raise the taxes to pay for that. So this would definitely fall under that. Would something like allowing medical marijuana?
It's a good question, Dave, because if medical marijuana was sold with any kind of a tax or created a tax increase somewhere in the law in order to pay for those services or to enforce state law surrounding that initiative, then this very well could apply. Again, there's a lot of questions about that. But frankly, you know, I do have to say, Dave, I'm with you. I do not think that legislating and lawmaking via initiative is the best way to go. My opinion is that we should defer and trust our elected lawmakers to make laws for us. But the constitutional right of initiative and referenda, it is so important as a fundamental check and balance in our state that this really, I think, pushes it too far.
Well, I would agree with both of you. And then we hit issues like Medicaid expansion, and that just stalls year after year after year. And you've got advocates for people who simply cannot afford medical care, who are under the age of 65, up there begging lawmakers every single year to get people what they deserve. I mean, health care. Yeah. And finally, the people, the voters of the state, said they were sick and tired of it. So they passed Medicaid expansion. I couldn't tell you if I pay, a penny more on something I buy at the store because it increases sales tax. I couldn't tell you. But if it's helping somebody who needs it, good. And so I think a checks and balances system, the three-legged stool or whatever it is we have in this state, maybe it's a four-legged stool, a five-legged stool. It's important, and it's important that voters don't continually give up their right to do what they are constitutionally allowed to do. Taylor Morgan, thanks so much. There's so many more questions about this. We're going to continue this conversation in our 10 o'clock hour when Jay Evenson of the Deseret News, he's the opinion editor there, will join us with more on what he's been able to learn about this. Dave, final thoughts on this for now anyway.
Well, I think when I look at that 60% threshold, that is a very high threshold, and none of these initiatives that have passed recently come even close to reaching that. So maybe it doesn't officially kill it, but practically speaking, it does.
Next, let's go to the Ballpark neighborhood in Salt Lake City, where police say they've seen a huge drop in crime, and ask them if they feel this in real life.
In the Ballpark neighborhood, we saw a 32% decrease in violent crime in 2023.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes with a look at our top stories this half hour. An ordinance regulating the number of horses in Salt Lake County is causing an uproar. We'll have to get that story for you coming up in a minute. The Loveland Living Planet Aquarium's Komodo dragon has spoken, and it says the San Francisco 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl, just in case you were wondering. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A federal appeals court says former President Donald Trump is not immune from facing criminal charges. ABC's Catherine Falders says the former president could appeal this decision to the entire D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court. Let's take a look at how the markets are doing this morning. We're mixed. The Dow, the only one that's really on the winning side of things, up about 0.2 or 83 points. The S&P is up by 4. The NASDAQ is down 5. And we'll continue to watch the markets and have the close for you later this afternoon. Coming up, the rain will continue today. We'll check your full forecast next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
All right, soft water, folks. If you have a soft water system, you know the benefits of it. If you don't, you may not understand or fully appreciate all the places in your home where soft water or hard water is affecting you. We went about 10 years when we bought our home without soft water, and then we called Connecticut of Utah and said, hey, will you come out and show us the difference that soft water makes? Because I remember growing up with it, and they said, okay, there's several places you're really going to notice it. Number one, when you take a shower, when you take a bath, you're going to feel it on your skin, and that is absolutely played out. That is the biggest reason my family decided to invest in a soft water system from Connecticut, is because we really struggle with dry skin, and that has helped enormously. Number two, dishes. You probably have seen these hard water stains on your dishes that are very hard to clean off. Soft water has completely removed that in our home. We just don't have spots on our dishes. It's softer on your laundry. It's better on your plumbing. So if you want to find out a little bit more about this soft water system from Connecticut, give them a call, 801-576-8600. That's Connecticut of Utah. They're an authorized Connecticut dealer, 801-576-8600, or online at softwaterutah.com.
Valentine's Day is here. This year, give the ultimate gift. Name a star after your sweetheart. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For 45 years, we've named millions of stars for celebrities, dignitaries, and individuals worldwide. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can give the most memorable gift. The star you name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333. Valentine's Day is here. This year, give the ultimate gift. Name a star after your sweetheart. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For 45 years, we've named millions of stars for celebrities, dignitaries, and individuals worldwide. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can give the most memorable gift. The star you name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333.
When you hire your local CertaPro painters, you get the power of doing it right. Detailed project proposals, excellent customer service, and trusted professionals who get the job done on time and on budget. The power of experience. We're kings of the scaffolding and pros with the stucco. We've been there, done that. Get your project started at CertaPro.com and get the power of pro.
Each CertaPro painter's business is independently owned and operated.
Hi, this is Cameron Rising. Growing up, summer break was the best, but I've learned that a lot of kids don't feel the same. That's because summer means their school breakfast and lunch won't be available. What's awesome is the food bank helps. Join me and Les Olson IT by giving food, time, or money. Take your donations to any Les Olson IT branch or the food bank. And find more info at lesolson.com/food. Let's support our community together.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents a gallon. Michelle, how are things?
Well, we have a new crash reported, Tim. This is southbound I-15 at Parish Lane off to the right shoulder, and then crews are still working on a crash northbound I-15 at the 33rd South off-ramp off to the right. Get the best Valentine's gift ever, a Minky Couture blanket. Save 50% by using promo code KSL50 in stores and online at minkycouture.com. Minky Couture, the best Valentine's gift ever. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Rain going to continue for today and tomorrow. Then it turns to snow, and Thursday, Friday, not just in the mountains. We could see it on the valley floors as the temperatures dip down into the lower 40s, maybe even upper 30s, so we'll keep an eye on that. Could affect your drive, certainly on Friday morning. Right now in Salt Lake City, it's 43 degrees from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. I'm Tim Hughes. Remember to listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Well, when the chief of police and the mayor of Salt Lake City stand up and say they've seen a major reduction in some areas of the city in crime and pretty big dip in crime across the board in general, it's important to take note. I think it's also important to ask people in the community if they're feeling like there's been a drop in crime in their community. Let's get Amy Kobe first, KSL News Radio, who was at the news conference yesterday as the chief and the mayor were talking about this drop.
Down 11% for all crimes, according to Chief Mike Brown. He says this is because of the hard work of their officers. Many major cities saw a sharp rise in crime, like homicides in recent years. The number of homicides stayed the same in Salt Lake City last year as the year before, at 16.
Obviously, the police department follows these trends very, very closely. But my bigger question is, how is the community feeling? Because they don't follow, they don't see the numbers. What does 11% mean to them? Because ultimately, what you're asking them is, do you feel safe in your neighborhood that has historically been dangerous in many cases? So that's where my mind goes is, okay, well, they say it's better. Do you feel it?
I feel like we could look at every single corner of the community and ask each neighborhood that same question, Dave.
Yeah.
Let's focus and zero in on the Ballpark neighborhood, where the Bees currently play baseball, where there's been complaints about crime, where last summer you and I focused on the crime issue out there with the help of our colleagues at KSL 5 Television. Ashley Mosier went out to the community last summer. KSL 5 reporters went out there. Our reporters went out there. Well, here's what Ashley found when she visited. She found that neighbors were experiencing quite a bit of crime.
And my girl's like, the car's broken into. I'm like, what you mean? You know, so I come outside, I see both my windows just broken.
His car, just one of at least 10 vandalized overnight Monday along West Temple.
They just broke the windows and didn't take anything.
The suspects using a pellet gun to shoot BBs through the glass, causing more than $1,000 in damage. Many residents left footing the bill.
If you're income restricted, that's going to be a real burden.
Joining us right now, Amy Hawkins, who's Ballpark Community Chair, Council Member. Amy, thanks for joining us. It sounded like really good news from the chief.
Yeah. So, Amy, let me just play what the chief said specifically about the Ballpark neighborhood where you are the Community Council Chair.
In the Ballpark neighborhood, we saw a 32% decrease in violent crime in 2023.
Do you feel safer?
Yeah, we have seen a decrease in violent crime in the neighborhood between 2022 and 2023. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a decrease in crime overall. We've seen an increase in property crime. So if you're looking at overall numbers, they stay the same. But in very recent months, since November 2023, we've noticed a palpable change. And I want to credit, thank goodness for our Salt Lake City police officers, but I also want to give credit to Salt Lake City economic development, because a lot of the change that we've seen in the immediate vicinity in this neighborhood have been economic changes that have been driven in partnership with Salt Lake City police officers. We've seen some of the most notorious businesses in our neighborhood close their doors, decide to change ownership. And that's really changed some of, and it's a very recent change. We hope it stays. It's only a few months of change now, really only a few. But, we're hopeful. We're cautiously hopeful.
So, Amy, were these
We'll
business?
see.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting twist in all of this, and I'm wondering if neighborhoods who are experiencing similar businesses that are of a concern to them are perking up their ears to to think, well, maybe this is, gets us partly to to brighter days. So without, I don't necessarily need you to list a whole bunch of names of businesses, but were these businesses attracting customers that were bringing other criminal elements into your community there in the Ballpark neighborhood?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And, this is something that you can look back to City Weekly and other news outlets and see this was a focus of, even when Mayor Mendenhall was a council member for the area. We had a low-budget motel that closed its doors in November 2023. We had I would say the most notorious convenience store in the area that was known to be a site of drug dealing throughout the valley that changed ownership due to the efforts of one of our most dedicated Salt Lake City police officers in conjunction with economic development. It's been extremely positive for the neighborhood in terms of the folks we've seen come through here. I'm not saying all our problems are fixed. Our property crime level stayed the same 2022 to 2023. And obviously, if anything happens to you personally, it's going to feel really bad if your car gets broken into. And I have so much sympathy. But I think we have a reason to feel good. And I think other communities have a reason to look to those same solutions.
That's really a fascinating description, Amy, as you were describing that. I thought, okay, we hear this from the police so often. Hey, crime is down. The police officers have done a great job. But you've added a layer to this. You said it was the economic development. Is it from the city?
That's my understanding, yes, that Salt Lake City police officers met with the city and talked about, how can we bring economic enforcement and other tools to bear on these businesses? How can we think about business licensing? And I don't think these are tools that, the average person necessarily thinks in terms of policing and what, you have to really get in depth with the neighborhood to think about, like, what are the big problems here that we could think about fixing.
It definitely is outside the box of traditional policing models, like patrol, reacting to 911 calls. This takes it beyond that, Amy, and that is, we're glad to hear this. We're really happy for the Ballpark community because I know there's been some struggles in the past.
I'm delighted to share it with you.
Yeah, and hopefully more brighter days ahead for your community there. Thanks so much for joining us, and I think this makes us feel like there's hope for other communities as well. Amy Hawkins of the Ballpark community, she's the council chair there. She joined us because we had heard from the chief of police yesterday during a live news conference that
in the Ballpark neighborhood, we saw a 32% decrease in violent crime in 2023.
And she says there's still property crime issues, but overall things are feeling a lot better.
And we shouldn't minimize the property crimes issue because that is a major issue. But I always am hesitant to praise police when they say, oh, the reason crime is down is because of good policing. I'm going to need a little bit more than that. Did you increase patrols? Were you flooding the area? Was it sustainable? What Amy Hawkins said, who lives in this area, this is the real difference maker for me, is it wasn't just flooding the area with police, but working with community leaders and shutting down some of the businesses that were the biggest crime centers. So I think that, as you said, Deb, is a very unique and maybe different way of looking at policing instead of just replying to 911 calls.
Next, there's a proposal on Capitol Hill about the minimum wage. It would up it here in Utah, but here's the catch. It depends on how old you are. Your minimum wage. Like if you want to earn $10 an hour, you got to be 18 years of age. If you're between 18 and 21, it would be $13 an hour. So what would it be if you're over the age of 21? We'll get the Lawmaker live next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
You know KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
Right now might just be the perfect time to upgrade your living space to one that has, well, a little more space. You've earned the equity in your home. It's now time to put it to good use. Whether it's opening up a cramped or dated floor plan, adding a little more luxury to your bath, or finally building the kitchen of your dreams, Golden West Credit Union has a home equity line of credit for a low introductory rate of 5.49% APR fixed for 6 months. With a Golden West home equity credit line, you'll save money with no fees or closing costs. And Golden West makes accessing the equity in your home easy with a Visa Platinum card. Start making the most of your equity today and make your plans a reality. Apply at any branch, online at gwcu.org, or on our mobile app. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 440574.
We'll take care of you.
Denise has been playing jazz for 40 years. Last concert, one of the musicians fell sick with RSV. Respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is a highly contagious virus that can lead to breathing problems. This time, she's choosing to help protect herself with Pfizer's RSV vaccine, Abrysvo. Abrysvo is a vaccine for the prevention of lower respiratory tract disease caused by respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, in adults 60 years of age and older. Abrysvo is not for everyone and may not protect all who receive the vaccine. Don't get Abrysvo if you've had a severe allergic reaction to its ingredients. People with a weakened immune system may have a decreased response to Abrysvo. The most common side effects are tiredness, headache, pain at the injection site, and muscle pain. Ask your pharmacist or doctor about Pfizer's RSV vaccine, Abrysvo, respiratory syncytial virus vaccine. For full prescribing information, please call 1-844-989-7284 or visit abrysvo.com. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This is Todd Frayton's heart. He's begun his wellness journey. This is its sound on a treadmill, at a slight incline, on a stroll through the forest. And this is the heart of Maria Sanchez, his physician. What's it doing here? A lot, actually, because when we partner with you, we don't just offer a strategic plan and status updates. We put our hearts into it, beat for beat. We call it the power of we, Intermountain Health.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
You know that feeling? You flush the toilet and it goes down okay, but you feel like it used to really whoosh when it went down, and now it's more of a gurgle than a whoosh, and that's probably okay, but what if that gurgle instead of a whoosh means there's actually a bigger problem down there? Whipple that away. Making gurgly drains whoosh again is my job. Make your problem my problem. Whipple Service Champions. We can solve your sewer problems in just one day. Visit whipplethataway.com.
One of my favorite reasons to come to NPS is the incredible deals that you can get. And it just depends on when you go in as to what you're going to find. But what you'll always find, Steve, is amazing deals of at least 30 to 70% off. But what NPS does so well is they have additional deals for more than the 30 to 70% off. Like some of the stuff that's going on during their Valentine's Day sale going on through Valentine's.
Yeah, I noticed that a couple of things. Kitchen supplies, 25% off. Bedding and linen, that's always a popular item. I bought a set and I thought, oh, for $50, that can't be good. For a king-size bed, they were amazing. The best sheets I've ever bought.
Well, and I am interested because dresses are 60% off right now, and it's the season to start finding prom dresses. It's the season for these Valentine's Day dresses. No, for my daughters. Oh. We spent a whole day trying to come up with dresses. So come to NPS where you can get them 60% off. 4 locations, 1150 North Main in Layton, 475 North State in Orem, and 2 locations, industrial and retail, at 1600 Empire Road in Salt Lake City. NPS, a nice place to save.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, fugitive Nicholas Rossi will be back in Utah County Court this afternoon. He faces rape charges dating back to 2008. Second, avalanche risks will increase with this rain, making the snow wet and heavy. And third, country singer Toby Keith has died after a battle with stomach cancer. The artist was 62 years old. We'll look for a high today in the lower 50s, and right now in Salt Lake City, it is 43 degrees. Now back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hey, before we talk about this pitch with Utah lawmaker who's looking at increasing the minimum wage in this state, it's kind of based on your age, a little bit of spoiler alert. So it's secret contest time. It's for our podcast listeners. Dave and I love you so much for listening to the show. We'd also invite you to listen to our podcast. So go to kslpodcast.com or wherever you listen to podcasts, and then subscribe to our show, please, and then listen.
I give you the keywords, so listen for my voice, and you can win a pair of AirPod Pros. AirPod Pros. That's a little bit of a mouthful.
Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
You know, I thought it's been a minute. It turns out it's been years and years and years. Utah's not raised the minimum wage, Dave, since 2008. It's still at a whopping $7.25 an hour. Ouch.
Yeah, that's terrible. But I don't care if it's $1.25 an hour, like your old babysitting rates, Deb. I don't care what the minimum wage is.
Where'd you come up with $1? It was the quarter an hour, literally. It was.
4 hours. Here's a buck, kid.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, you were definitely exploited. That's a terrible thing. No, we have not paid $7.25. I don't know one business that pays $7.25, even though that's the minimum. No company that you couldn't possibly hire anybody for $7.25.
Representative Brent Garner live on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Super excited to hear about your pitch on Capitol Hill. It looks like from the read of your legislation, this is broken down into age tiers. So could you give it to us on the fly and tell us what those tiers are?
Yeah, so I'm proposing starting in 2027, what we do is raise the minimum wage for those younger than 18 to $10 an hour, and then have another 2-year increments and a few dollar increments up to age 23. That would be $19 an hour. Part of that is when you're younger, you don't have as many expenses, but when you get to age 23 and above, that's when you have a lot of living expenses, and we want to be able to address that part of the affordable living situation.
Now, I look at this and I think $19 an hour, that's a chunk. How do you see that affecting prices? Because if I do know anything about companies, is the bottom line, they got to make a profit. Does that just mean I'm going to be paying a lot more for my soda and hamburgers?
So, as you know, a lot of those jobs are going to what we want to do is incentivize those jobs to go to the younger population, get more younger workers into the workforce, and for the older population, that we want to be able to have them have some stability in their living expenses. There's been a lot of studies that have shown that during our current inflationary crisis, the wage growth has not been a major part of inflation. We can absorb a lot more wage growth into and not affect inflation.
Well, all of the employees who are listening to that who are not making what they feel they're worth are going to be knocking down their boss's door today to say, hey, look, we deserve a raise now. We don't want to wait till 2027. But I like where you're going with this, Representative. I'm just wondering, why not just boost everybody to $19 an hour? Because I'm looking at this from a different point of view. When I look at these tiers, I mean, I just go out and hire a bunch of 18-year-olds to work for $10 an hour and pass by those 23-year-olds who are, the minimum wage is set at $19 an hour.
And that is part of what I'm actually wanting to do, is get more youth into the workforce. We are in a bit of a labor crisis in terms of our youth workforce out there. I want to encourage more kids to get out of whatever else they're doing in their life, but to join the workforce so that we can affect some of these lower wage industries to have them be able to have the workers that they need.
Has the free market already taken care of this? I've got a bunch of kids under the age of 18 or, that are just getting out of that. and they couldn't find a job that paid under $13 an hour. I mean, they were all over the place.
I think inflation has taken a lot of the current minimum wage out of the equation. As you said, it hasn't been raised since 2009 when it's been $7.25, and that was the federal government passed that nationwide. Utah hasn't made a change in decades to our independent wage, so this would be a new start there. I think that there are a lot of jobs out there that pay a lot more, and this again is the minimum wage, but there are still industries out there that are paying this lower levels of the minimum wage, and this would be something to encourage them to step up and pay a little bit more so that people can afford to live in our community.
And would this require it of all employers, whether it's public employer or private sector?
This would be, all employers, yes.
But not till 2027. So you're giving this time to settle in if it gets passed.
Yes. And another thing I'm encouraging, part of the law is to have a 25-cent per year raise for each of those tiers so that employers can make a standard plan without guessing on what inflation will be.
Representative Brett Garner, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Good luck. Keep us posted on what happens to your legislation. So the way he's describing it is this would be a tiered approach. If you're up to 18 years old, minimum wage would be $10 an hour. 18 to 21, $13. 21 and 22-year-olds, $15 an hour would be the minimum wage. 23 and older would be $19 an hour. Right now, it's stayed flat. Since 2008, it's $7.25 an hour.
Now, what's kind of shocking to me is I look at this. Say, for example, you've got a 17-year-old that is working retail, and then you've got a 23-year-old. They're doing the exact same job. You could pay the 17-year-old $10 an hour, but you'd be required to pay the 23-year-old, just 6 years older, almost double.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem fair to me.
Would you rather have all of it raised to $18 an hour?
No, not at all.
$17 an hour. Everybody gets $17 an hour. I mean, where's the sweet spot then?
That
doesn't work. Yeah. $7.25 doesn't work anymore, right?
Sure it does.
Yeah, right.
Zero works.
Oh, right.
Because the free market has already fixed this. Like nobody is paying $7.20. Sure, it does.
No, it doesn't.
$7.20. You think $7.25 makes any difference?
People don't work for free.
Well, then they don't take the job. Right? No one's taking a job at $7.25.
That's a volunteer job.
Yeah.
So you don't work for free.
No, which means you would never take the $7.25 job.
If we were required to work for free, but yet buy food, buy cars, get transportation, none of this makes sense. Now, I'm not even going to give this a second thought. If we don't work for free, $7.25 an hour is way too low. We can't even stay competitive at that rate anyway. And as you said, everybody's paying more anyway, so what does it matter if the state ups the minimum wage? It doesn't really matter. It's already at that, at the point where people are paying so much more, so they can obviously afford it. And he just said there's been a study done. They've looked at research. It shows that the situation with inflation isn't due to the pay situation. So
you say, what does it matter? Because if I'm a company that is required to pay $19 an hour as a minimum wage, that could put me out of business. Because there's not this endless supply of under 18-year-olds that you can just say, oh, well, I'll just fill in these spots of flipping burgers or making donuts or, stocking shelves. There's not an endless supply of 16-year-olds that'll make $10 an hour. So when you require them to pay at least $19 an hour for a kid that's maybe just out of college or maybe still in college, that would break the bank for many businesses.
Speaking of breaking the bank, you better start making more than $7.25 an hour to cover the cost of car insurance. It's going through the roof, folks. We're going to have live analysis on that in our 10 o'clock hour.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour. A junior high student in the Granite School District faces criminal charges now after she allegedly spread a fake school shooting threat on social media.
Our encouragement to parents is simply, if you can't monitor it, please don't allow your child to have access to it.
That's Granite School District spokesperson Ben Horsley telling KSL TV they have to look into perceived threats once or twice a week, which puts a big strain on them and other districts around the state. He says the majority of the time kids are just joking, but they have to treat every threat seriously. We're learning more about a crash in Juab County on Saturday that sent 5 people to the hospital, including a UHP trooper. One of those involved has died. They were in a car that lost control and crashed into the trooper's car parked on the side of I-15. The trooper has been released from the hospital. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A federal appeals court in Washington has ruled against former President Trump in his effort to throw out the January 6th case against him. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy has details.
The unsigned unanimous opinion from the 3-judge panel rejects Trump's argument, saying it would put former occupants of the presidency, quote, above the law for all time thereafter and collapse our system of separated powers. Trump has claimed that what he did in the lead-up to January 6th amounted to official acts, and that to subject a president to the later scrutiny of prosecutors might end up tying the hands of a commander-in-chief.
And the case could ultimately be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day right now, 62 points, while the NASDAQ is down 57 right now. And our KSL weather. We may see a return to winter here by the end of the week. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
You can stream your favorite show anytime, but the opera only happens 4 times per year. Join us and make new memories with your family and friends. Enjoy the entertaining stories, beautiful sets and costumes, and mesmerizing music. You deserve an elegant night on the town or a Sunday matinee with Utah Opera. Your couch will be there when you get back. Tickets start at $21. Get yours today at utahopera.org. Get ready for the ultimate movie experience. You, your loved ones, the big screen, and, oh yeah, the world-class Utah Symphony playing the movie's music live, giving you next-level surround sound. Don't miss the Hollywood classic Casablanca or the animated favorite How to Train Your Dragon. The Films in Concert series will become your new preferred cinematic experience. Located conveniently in downtown Salt Lake City at Marisa Bravenel Hall. See what's playing next at utahsymphony.org/films.
Getting your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt can lead to some spirited reactions.
Jackson Hewitt!
Jackson Hewitt is so sure that you'll get your biggest refund that if they don't, you get your money back plus $100.
Jackson Hewitt!
And Jackson Hewitt also guarantees the accuracy of your return for life. So don't just sit there. For your biggest refund guaranteed, walk into a Jackson Hewitt today and dance out Jackson Hewitt! Yeah!
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-838-6161. That's 800-838-6161. 800-838-6161.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, it's pretty quiet out there. We do have a couple of crashes. The first one is southbound I-15 at Parish Lane off to the right. That's not causing any delays. The second is at 33rd South at the off-ramp. This is southbound I-15, also off to the right. Save up to 20 cents per gallon using Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Find a Sinclair station, store amenities, purchase history, and enjoy a simple, secure way to pay for fuel. Download the free app today. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather. We'll see valley rain and mountain snow along the Wasatch Front this afternoon and evening.
That will continue through the day tomorrow with up to 20 inches of snow in high mountain areas. Snow could reach the valley floors by Friday. And right now we're at 45 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Right on the money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
The rates for car insurance, yikes. If you feel like yours are going up and up and up and up, you're 100% right. We're going to speak to Bank Rate Live in just a moment because insurance costs are up significantly. We're going to break it down.
I've felt it. I feel like I've got 37 cars that are being insured right now. It is the worst. So expensive. But I look at the cost of cars right now, Debbie, and I'm just looking at Kelley Blue Book right now. And it's kind of the industry standard. For a full-size truck, average cost $60,000. How about a full-size SUV? $72,000. You know, even if you want something a little smaller, like a mid-size SUV or a crossover, that's $45,000. So insurance has to replace or pay for the cars, and the cars have just skyrocketed over the last several years. I guess I can't be that surprised that car insurance has gone up as well.
Do you know what you pay?
A
lot.
A lot?
It's $211 a month on average for one car across the nation. We're going to get the breakdown of what it is in Utah. It's a little less than that.
Oh, yeah, I'm not paying that for sure.
But you have multiple cars.
Yeah, that's
true. I just
true.
have one.
Yeah.
It's glorious to finally have one car on my car insurance. Oh, yeah. The kids are off the insurance now. That is expensive. It's a lot of money, and it's getting more expensive. Florida was the worst. It's like I think it's $300 a month in Florida.
Oh, wow.
Let's get with Shannon.
Hurricane tax.
Yeah, let's get with Shannon Martin at Bank Rate. What did I recall that right? I looked at your charts, and it seemed like Florida was off the chart with car insurance.
You are right. Drivers in Florida do pay the most in car insurance. And drivers in Utah, you're right again, they are pretty lucky. Their average rate monthly is right around $161 a month, so it is much lower than the national average.
So what is, I guess, I joked it's the hurricane tax, but is that what it is in these different states?
Extreme weather does play a major part in places like Florida and Louisiana. Both have extremely high costs of car insurance. And because the replacement parts of vehicles and the cost of labor is so high, and hurricane, hail, wind causes massive damage, and it really just all adds up.
Shannon Martin with Bank Rate on the line with us live to help us break down why car insurance is getting so expensive. And I would imagine teen drivers are contributing to that when it comes to some of their parents' policies, Shannon.
That is true. Teen drivers tend to be the most expensive life event that can happen on a car insurance policy. Nationally, it costs an extra $2,878 on average to add a teen driver to your policy.
What? So back up. Did you say, was that almost $3,000 a year?
Yes, almost $3,000 a year of an increase. So that means the whole policy in itself is around $5,400.
We're breathless. Oh, my goodness.
And we're also legally obligated to have it. I mean, that's one of the trickiest parts of it.
Yes, you do have to have car insurance. The good news is that your team can help you make this cheaper by keeping a good student discount on the policy and having grades above a 3.0 and taking an extra driver training course. Both those discounts can save a lot of money for mom and dad.
What are the other ways we can save?
You really want to review your policy and make sure all the information is accurate. Sometimes we change jobs or children move out of the household. We don't remember to update our policy, and that can save money there. But you'll want to look at discounts and maybe look to pare down if these rates are too much for your budget to handle. You might not need to keep towing and lockout or rental reimbursement or even gap coverage on your policy.
The car you drive matters, right? I mean, if I'm driving a Tesla versus a 2011 Corolla, that's going to affect as well.
Absolutely. When we talk about EVs, Teslas are kind of the top of the line, and they do cost the most, but then they do have like the Nissan Leaf that is a much more affordable vehicle that's electric to keep on your insurance policy. But cars that are known to be really, really fast and have those great fast commercials have a higher risk associated with them than, like your standard minivan when the parents are going to drive more careful because their children are in tow.
Are things going to get worse, Shannon?
Sometimes things get worse before they get better.
Okay.
Right now for 2024, we're really hoping that things will level off. The problem is that these increases roll out slowly. So some people haven't even gotten their renewals yet, and that's when these rate increases go up. We're hoping that 2025 is when the rates start to even out and slow down and income levels increase to make it a little bit easier.
Insurance is so often a bill that I don't think a lot about. So when I'm fixing the family budget, you have the benchmarks, 30% of your income should go to your housing, whatever it might be. Do we have a similar number? Like, how much should I be setting aside as far as the family budget for insurance?
We do. Experts recommend that your transportation expense be as close to 10% of your household budget as can be. 20% would be very extreme. So for drivers in Utah, on average, the household budget puts 2.16% of its money towards car insurance. But in some places like Detroit, they're almost at 8% of their household income for car insurance, which makes it much more difficult.
Oh my goodness. This is kind of scaring me because it is becoming a much, much larger chunk of our monthly budget and our annual budgets if you pay it all at one time. Shannon, great stuff. Shannon Martin with Bank Rate. And Dave's got one more question.
Again, can you just clarify again, as you were saying those numbers, what Utah pays compared to, say, Detroit? By the way, that's where they make them. Why are we doing so well? Why are our rates so low?
Well, overall, your rates are a little bit lower than the national average. Part of it has to do with the household income in Utah is kind of in a better spot than it is in the rest of the country. The amount of car thefts aren't as prevalent. So all those different rating factors, even just extreme weather, what happens in Utah, you don't get as many floods and hurricanes as people in Louisiana and Florida do. So all those things are kind of helping out Utah drivers.
Thanks, Shannon. That's great information. Shannon Martin with Bank Rate. She's on the line live with us today because we read their report that car insurance rates are, they didn't put it this way, but going through the roof. I feel it when I get my bill. I've started paying once a year, and that...
Stop it.
No, I do.
You do not.
I do. I pay once a year.
You're the only person I've ever heard that does that. You rip that Band-Aid off all in one check?
I do, and it's coming up. It's like in May.
I can't believe you do that.
Oh, yeah, I did it all once. I was doing it every month, and I was like, no, I don't like that either, so I tried it once a year. I used to do it every 6 months, but now I do it once a year. Of course, when you have your kids fall off of your car insurance, it changes a lot, Dave. You have a lot to financially look forward to.
Yeah, it does.
There's other things that you pay, like, you pay more in federal income tax because you don't get the
breaks,
the breaks and stuff from having kiddos under your roof who are under the age of 18. But with car insurance, you'll find it's easier along the way. It's still a lot of money, though, and it's becoming more and more of a chunk of our budget. I like the ideas that she came up with, ways to save. One of the first things I would do is check your credit card. Like, what does your credit card cover? Because often, you might be paying for like rental car coverage if you're in a crash with your insurance company, but your credit card that you use, that you pay maybe, $50 or $100 a year to use, or sometimes they're free, will cover that too. So if you're double covered there, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would start looking there first, and then tell your kids to get good grades.
Oh, the good grades, the good driving, all those discounts, they really make a difference. Can we just put a little pin on the whole, maybe a future right on the money of the benefits of paying all at once versus a monthly thing? Like, is there a benefit to doing that? I think Shane Stewart's going to have an opinion on that. I don't know what it is. You sound a little crazy to me with your, we're going to pay all the insurance all at once, all the car insurance.
All of it
That's
comes out
wild.
at once. Yeah. So I don't know why it's so wild.
You're revolutionary. You're the only person in America that does that. I've never heard of this. You're an inspiration or a lunatic. I'm not sure which one.
Okay. Yeah, we can ask. I mean, maybe he'd say, go to the monthly payments, and then you can, manipulate that money each month accordingly. I don't know. We'll ask Shane that question. That's fine. We'll settle this score here on this show, as we always do. Next, there's been different proposals on Capitol Hill about mail-in ballots. This one we're going to talk about next has to do with opting in, and I am so now totally confused about opting in and opting out on mail-in ballots and what lawmakers are thinking about doing. Let's get one of the representatives who's sponsoring this legislation to help us straighten this thing out next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
The recent spring preview was nice.
Temperatures extra warmer in the 50s again today.
But it is February.
Snow showers at the valley floor on Friday.
When winter makes a comeback, come here.
We have you covered.
With traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s.
On KSL News Radio.
Progressive presents Precious Moments.
Nothing beats driving cross-country in our RV.
This is so much fun, Dad. I don't even need to look at my phone.
It's not the destination. It's the journey. Jinx!
The exchange you just heard didn't actually happen, but it could. Bundle your home and other vehicles with Progressive and you could use the savings to make sure that RV is always ready to hit the road. Who knows, your teenager might actually put down her phone for 5 minutes. It could happen. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
I guess it's human nature, Amanda, that no matter how much money we have in our savings account, it never seems like it's enough. And if you find yourself in that mode right now, let us direct you over to our friends at UCCU. They are wanting to help you supercharge your savings.
UCCU is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.5%. All you do is go to UCCU.com and select a high-rate savings option to do just what you said, supercharge your savings.
You're going to get a much bigger return on your savings right now. It's a savings certificate, which means you make one deposit up front and your money grows over a fixed period of time. So you can have that grow over 5 years, but UCCU has created some very short-term savings certificates with high yields, short like 6 months, 9 months, or a year.
So you decide how long do you want to put that money. You deposit money, a one-time only deposit, and then you let it stay in. The longer it stays in there, the higher the interest rate you earn.
And if you need immediate access to your money, UCCU's Money Market will give you a high yield and anytime access.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Would you like to be part of an important research study and receive up to $550? The Beehive study at the University of Utah is comparing how well 2 different FDA-authorized booster vaccines protect people against COVID-19. You can decide to get a booster or not and still participate. By joining the Beehive study, you'll have the chance to receive up to $550 for completing activities such as weekly COVID tests and brief surveys about your health. Call 801-203-0320 or email beehivestudy@utah.edu to learn more. You can also visit the study website at www.beehivestudy.com.
See the high-flying dunks, show-stopping blocks, and crowd-silencing threes at Delta Center this season. With an action-packed schedule, it's easy to get to a Jazz game. Pick out an unmissable matchup or just a tip-off time that works for you. It's time to put on your Jazz gear and head to the game. Come with a friend, a loved one, or as a group. See all available tickets and options at utahjazz.com or call or text 801-355-DUNK.
Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, one Utah school district says their time is being wasted by threats that come in once or twice a week. Second, a state trooper has been released from the hospital after an accident in Juab County last weekend. One person died in that crash. And third, an appeals court in Washington, D.C. has rejected the argument from former President Trump that a president cannot be prosecuted for his actions while he was in office. Right now, 45 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Let's talk about mail-in ballots again. Legislators have been rifling through some different ideas on how to change things up. And now we're at a point where things are changing once again. I want to minimize confusion on the part of the voters. I happen to like and appreciate our mail-in ballot system. It makes it easier for more people to vote and take their time voting at the kitchen table. So I'm interested in hearing what's up this lawmaker's sleeve in just a few moments.
I'll say it's been a slam dunk. As good a change as I've seen in a long time. I will never go back. I like out of my clutching fist, you'd have to rip that ballot out of my hands because I love having it mailed for all the reasons you said. I love sitting down at my table. I love taking my time, getting to it when I can, instead of feeling rushed. And whenever I went to the ballot in person and I'm filling it out, I felt like everyone was looking at me like, what's taking this guy so long?
There was a proposal we talked about just a few weeks ago, right at the beginning of the session, that would have made some changes to the mail-in ballot process. But Representative Mark Strong, I'm unclear at this point because it seems like you are kind of slam dunking over that proposal with another proposal. So why don't you give us the lay of the land when it comes to mail-in ballots and where you're at with your legislation about opting in?
How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I was glad to have you. You sound like you're happy. You must not be on the Hill today.
No, I'm always happy when I'm talking to somebody in the media.
Awesome. We love it. So straighten it out. So straighten us out then, Representative Strong, on what you're trying to do this time with this legislation.
Let me just give you a little bit of background. So Representative Birkeland had this bill originally, and then my wife, she suggested I get most of my good bill ideas from my wife, Cindy. And anyway, she said, Mark, I think we should address some of these things on mail-in ballots. I said, okay. So I pulled a bill file, and then I had heard that she was doing something. And we have so many bill files this year that I kind of just sat on mine. And then I was with Representative Birkeland a while ago, and I said, hey, are you doing much with that bill? She goes, well, I'm so busy. And I said, do you want me to take it over? And she said, yeah. So I've taken over the bill. Now, to be clear, there's a new substitute out as of probably just this morning. So I kind of pretty severely changed the direction of where the bill is going. And by the way, Dave, I am so on board with you. My wife and I comment so much how much we love mail-in ballots.
Yes.
I know we're kind of involved. You know, I'm in the legislature, and my wife volunteers for a lot of things too. But we will take a week or two to fill out those ballots. I mean, those judges and things like that. I know a lot of the things just because I'm so involved, but things like the judges. I actually met with a judge here a year or two ago to say, what are all these ratings and things like that? And we would take a week or two to fill out that ballot. And then my wife, she's pretty careful. She doesn't mail it in. She actually takes it to a ballot drop-in box and drops it in personally, just to be extra safe and extra careful.
Well, so this legislation would do what then?
Okay, so what we're the way it's written right now, and I was in the shower this morning, and I have some other thoughts that came to me while I was showering this morning. But what it does right now is it says if you don't turn your mail-in ballot in for 2 years, that you're removed from the mail-in only. Now, you're still registered. You can still vote. You just would need to go in person or request it. You could go to the clerk's office. It's easy to get it in any way. So the thought is this. If you mail your ballot in, you have basically proven to the state, to our clerks, that you are who you say you are. You have to verify your signature and all that stuff. It all goes through. It's properly counted. You're going to get a mail-in ballot. No opt-in, no postcard, nothing. You get it. It's just for those places where people are not turning in their ballots. Now, let me give you a couple of numbers here that we gathered from some of our clerks. I'm going to use Salt Lake County because they're the largest county. In 2023, they had 513,704 registered voters. They received, now 2023, I think I said 13. 2023 was a municipal election. They got 157,000 ballots returned, about a 30% return. So we had 350,000 ballots that went to somewhere, to the landfill, whatever. So that's that. Now on a federal election, but not presidential, in 2021, they sent out nearly 600,000 ballots, and they got 384,000 back. So it was a 65% return. So again, there's still 200,000+ ballots not turned in. In a presidential election in 2020, they sent out 610,000 ballots, and they got 550,000 back. So a 90% return. So anyway, there's just, even in that presidential year, there were still around 60,000 ballots that were sort of circling the Spider-Verse, probably ended up in a landfill or in the garbage, just wherever they went.
No, Representative, they have our shopping lists written on the back of the envelope. That's what happens to those.
That's right. It got put with the Burt Brothers mailer, and it was probably treated as a advertisement. Yeah.
So okay, so this so the bottom line is what you're saying with this proposal that you've got on Capitol Hill is if you didn't vote, you didn't cast a ballot for 2 years, you would then you wouldn't get a mail-in ballot until you went to the clerk's office or probably to a website and opted in, right?
And got back in. Or you can go vote in person, of course, and at that point say, hey, I want a mail-in ballot next year. So now, let me throw out one other thing. This is the shower this morning that I was thinking of. I thought, well, if somebody voted in a municipal election, only 30%, 25, 30%, and then you voted in the off year of congressional, that's 64, 65%, then we're going to be dropping 35, maybe 40% of those people off our mail-in ballot. That's maybe even a little bit high for me. I'm almost wondering if I go, well, let's say you just missed the presidential election, then 10% of those are going to get dropped off, give or take. And I don't want to, I love mail-in ballots. I truly do. And I wish everybody voted like you and I do, was listening and concerned. But that's not reality. And so maybe I might even substitute the bill to say, hey, you missed a presidential election, you can still vote. You're just not going to receive your mail-in ballot. And that would reflect 10%, which with 60,000 ballots just in Salt Lake County alone that would no longer have to be mailed out. So
well, and if I look at I appreciate it. Thank you for explaining it. It sounds like it still might have a few tweaks and some changes there. But, yeah, the 2 years, I think of my son, who is 18 years old, who will vote. He's gone on a mission for 2 years. Now, all of a sudden, he's got to re-request that ballot gets sent to him. If 2 years ends up being the number, Representative Mark Strong, thank you for joining us.
I'm just not familiar with, are they not voting when they're away on their mission?
Not typically.
Okay.
I mean, some do. Some request a ballot, get it.
If they're close to home, it'd be easier.
Yeah, it's...
Okay.
I can't say, I didn't vote. When I was living in Spain, I didn't vote over those 2 years.
So we require...
you can.
So the bottom line is this would require you to opt in if you missed a couple of election cycles into getting that mail-in ballot again. But you'd still be registered to vote. We'll keep an eye on that one. That is a curious one, and hopefully he comes up with more great ideas in the shower. Next.
I like that he gave all the credit to his wife, all the good ideas. Maybe we should elect her, Representative Strong. You might be losing your job, my friend.
Straight ahead, we're going to dive back into that big story of the day that we led the 9 o'clock hour with, and that citizens' initiatives are going to have to pass even a larger hurdle in the near future if this proposal on Capitol Hill gets through.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, a proposed bill that would allow teachers and principals to sign up as armed guardians as a way to help protect schools from threats. KSL News Radio's Peter Johnston has details.
Representative Ryan Wilcox got the idea of this bill after visiting with the parents of slain teens in Parkland, Florida. And one of the Parkland parents told the Utah legislature that the shooter might have been stopped earlier if school employees were armed. This bill requires volunteering teachers and principals to pass a mental health check, receive gun training from the school 6 months before joining, and get their concealed carry permit.
That's KSL News Radio's Peter Johnston. UDOT giving a friendly reminder this morning to people who park on State Street during a snowstorm. They're posting pictures along the road with photos saying, hey, you can't park there. Plow drivers have a hard time clearing the roads when people park on the street during or directly after a storm. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. House Speaker Mike Johnson says Congress does not have time to wait on the Senate to pass a compromise bill that says funding for Ukraine and Israel in exchange for tougher immigration restrictions.
We believe that if those provisions were to make law, it might actually make the situation worse.
Johnson says House Republicans will focus on a bill that sends aid to Israel only and is funded by taking money from the IRS. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day right now, 106 points, while the NASDAQ is down 59. And our KSL weather, maybe snow on the ground by Friday. We'll look at that next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
This Monday Tax Tip is brought to you by Susan Spears, CEO of the Utah Association of CPAs.
The Employee Retention Credit was a refundable tax credit that small businesses could claim during the pandemic. It provided some relief for struggling businesses that kept their employees on their payrolls, even when the government restrictions required them to shut down. While employers may still apply for ERC credits through April 15, 2024 for 2020 claims and April 15, 2025 for 2021 claims, the IRS has warned about ERC mills that are preparing false ERC claims. To find out if you're eligible, contact your CPA. Know that you will need to amend tax returns for any credits received.
Get the most out of your income tax preparation when you hire a CPA. Go to uacpa.org to find a CPA that's right for you. That's uacpa.org. Listen to KSL on Monday for more tax tips from the Utah Association of CPAs.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. Imagine playing a game where the rules change every quarter or every halftime. In the back of one of the few remaining stores where you can buy technology is a pile of displays for past products. Most of the companies and products they're selling do not exist anymore. The rules of the game are always changing. What is popular and usable today is dated and gone tomorrow. Companies with teams that continuously adapt to the complexity of the world are the ones that survive. Adaptive teams listen and learn from each other so that when the market changes, they change too. Learn more about what the best teams do in an MBA from Utah State University. Go to utahstatemba.com. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
I'm not going to lie. It's nice when I see someone I haven't seen for a long time and they say, "Man, you've lost weight." I mean, that's nice. I lost 34 pounds a couple of years ago, and I've kept it off with the Soda Weight Loss program, sodaweightloss.com. Here is Rosie.
They always ask me what I'm doing, how much weight I've lost, like if there's any diet that I'm doing. And I'm really excited to tell them about the Soda program. It's one of those things that I think is worth every penny, especially when you're investing in your own health.
That is the way I look at it. It was an investment in myself.
It really is. And when you talk about the health side of it, being overweight leads to high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, sleep apnea. The list is long. My daughter Amber, who lost 42 pounds, talks about how much better she feels, not just emotionally about herself, but physically, and being able to do some of the things she wasn't able to do before.
You know, my doctor used to tell me, you need to lose some weight, Amanda. I finally did with Soda Weight Loss.
Get it off and keep it off at Soda Weight Loss. Go to sodaweightloss.com, spelled SOTA, stands for State of the
Art.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, it's pretty quiet out there. There's not any reports of any crashes on any of the major freeways. We're looking at about a 30-minute travel time for if you're going from Levi up to downtown. Also, if you're on Foothill Drive, you're seeing some slowdowns around the University of Utah. Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we'll see valley rain and mountain snow along the Wasatch Front this afternoon and evening, and that will continue through the day tomorrow, up to 20 inches of snow in our highest mountain areas, and the snow could reach the valley floors by Friday. Right now, 46 degrees, mostly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
If this law passes, if it's enacted, it's been proposed on Capitol Hill, it would make it harder for voters to approve an initiative. Let's just go a little bit of a walk back in time to remember that there are a couple of ways that laws can get passed in this state right now. The first one is pretty straightforward. It's through the legislature.
I'm just a bill. Yes, yeah. I'm only a bill.
We all
and
understand
I'm
that.
sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well,
the second way is to make a law through the initiative process, which is pretty complex. It's a 13-step process if voters want to get enough signatures to get an initiative on the ballot. And then the voters go to the polls and they decide yes or no. Well, right now, that threshold is a simple majority to get it approved.
50.1%.
If this bill gets through the legislature, and there are some nuances here, we're going to get to that in just a moment with Jay Evenson of the Deseret News, it would require at least 60% vote in favor.
Ooh, that's a big number, because I just think of the last three initiatives, or three of the most recent ones that have passed: medical marijuana, that expanded Medicaid coverage, and then redistricting. All those were initiatives. All of them passed under 53% of the vote. So under these proposed rules, none of those would have hit that threshold. So medical marijuana wouldn't have passed, Medicaid expansion wouldn't have passed, redistricting wouldn't have passed.
But there's some nuances to this, and Jay Evenson of the Deseret News, he's the opinion editor. He joins us every week. He's been keeping his eye on Capitol Hill. He wrote about this in the Deseret News. The tug of war between people, power, and a Republican form of government is messy. And that's okay, you say. So sort through the mess for us, Jay. What do you know about this proposal and how it's being received by people that aren't exactly excited about it?
Yeah. To correct one thing, this would only affect initiatives that raise taxes in any way. So it would only have affected that Medicaid bill or initiative, because that one actually raised sales taxes by 0.15%. got a lot of lawmakers upset because they don't want to raise taxes, they want to lower them. I spoke with the sponsor of the bill, and he says, well, a lot of people are suffering right now because of inflation, and we don't need higher taxes. But this would be voters who vote for raising their taxes. Interestingly, there's one other type of initiative that requires more than a simple majority, and that is one that would affect hunting or wildlife in any way, and that's a 2/3 majority, and that was done back in the 90s. So the other aspect to this is that this would require a change in the state constitution, which means the people would have to vote for it. So you would have to actually vote to restrict yourself to not have pass an initiative unless there's 60% for raising taxes. So you say, well, why would voters ever vote for that? Because I think most voters think, well, I'm going to vote right, but I don't trust the guy down the street and how he's going to vote. Because voters had to approve that 2/3 majority for wildlife back in the 90s, and they did pretty overwhelmingly, as I remember it.
So we spoke to a lobbyist earlier today, and they argued that the language in this bill is sufficiently vague that even though you said, oh, in recent history, the only thing it would have affected is the Medicaid, but he argued that some would look at it and say, medical marijuana. Are we going to tax medical marijuana, or will there be tax dollars involved, some sort of fiscal note, that you could argue that would have to hit the same threshold?
Yeah, that's interesting, and I would have to look at the language and see that vagueness. Lawmakers don't like the initiative process, and that's been the case. Utah, interestingly, was the second state in the union to approve the initiative process in the year 1900.
That's in the Constitution.
Yes,
right?
and the people voted to put that into the Constitution. But ever since then, the lawmakers have been trying to make it as hard as possible to, within the confines of what the courts will allow, to actually get a ballot on the initiative. And so you have to get a certain number of signatures on a petition, but not just the number of signatures. They have to be in 26 of 29 state Senate districts, and they have to be a certain percentage in each district of how many people voted in the last election. So it's a high threshold. But the lawmakers will argue that, look, a bill that goes through the legislative process has to go through hearings. It's often amended. There are often several different iterations of that bill, and they listen to concerns from both sides, and they vet it, and they come out with a bill that's better than what they started with. With an initiative, now Utah requires 7 public hearings before you can start an initiative. But once that initiative is written and petitioners have signed and put it on the ballot, you can't change it, and it's an up or down vote. And so they argue that it's not as good of a process for writing law as the representative Republican government that we have at the legislature.
Well, the Republicans have a supermajority on the Hill, and I think there's probably a lot of taxpayers who pay taxes that don't agree. Whether in some cases there are Republicans who don't agree with what's going on the Hill in a particular issue. In some cases they're Democrats. In some cases they're independents. So this idea that the Republican, held legislature doesn't like the power of the people or isn't comfortable with it is not lost on me, and I'm sure it's not lost on others. Jay, what is the sponsor saying about that?
Well, I think he told me he's not opposed to the initiative process. He just wants to make sure that everyone points at California and says, look, California, you have page after page of citizen initiatives on the ballot. Sometimes they contradict each other. It's kind of a mess. And we don't want that in Utah. And so we want to make it difficult, but we don't want to make it impossible. And we have seen some victories recently where the people stepped up and said, I'm thinking about tax reform a couple of years ago, said, we don't like this. You're keeping sales tax on food, et cetera, et cetera. And they got enough signatures on a petition that they actually forced lawmakers to go back in session and repeal what they had done. So I think it's worked on both sides, but it is messy. And thank goodness democracy is messy.
Jay, thank you for joining us. Jay Evenson of the Deseret News, the opinion editor there. And some of the argument would be that this is just a ginormous power grab for the state legislature, that they want all the power in passing laws. It would feel less so if they held themselves to the same standard and the same threshold, saying that they'd need 60% of votes to raise taxes or to change the tax code at all. But right now, it is very focused on just the initiative process. So, Jay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Next, we just learned this morning during Utah's Morning News that a federal appeals court rejected former President Trump's claim of presidential immunity with his federal trial that is on the horizon. So let's break down what this means with KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas straight ahead.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Current events can have a lot of moving parts. Our job is to make it easy to keep up.
You're part of a bigger world, so spend 15 or 20 minutes here and be part of it.
Join us weekday mornings between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
In order for small businesses to thrive, they need to be smart, efficient, savvy, staying ahead of the market at every turn, finding ways to do more with less, and taking advantage of every opportunity that comes their way. That's why Comcast Business is introducing the Small Business Bonus. For a limited time, you can get up to a $1,000 prepaid card when you switch to Comcast Business, the company with the largest, fastest, reliable network. So if you're a small business owner, don't wait. Call or go online to learn about the $1,000 bonus today.
Give your business a head start in 2024. Get started with fast speeds and advanced security for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Call or go online to switch today. Ends 2/21/24. Restrictions apply. New customers only with 50 megabits per second internet and security edge. EcoBill and autopay required. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Prepaid card offer requires premium internet.
Remember that first paycheck when you started working all those years ago? You looked at the net amount and thought, whoa, what happened here? Ah, the joy of taxes. It could be this way with your retirement accounts. You know how much you've saved, but if you haven't planned for Uncle Sam, you could come up short in retirement. With tax laws constantly changing, there's a lot you need to know to make sure you're not paying more than your fair share. Mike Stevens and the team at Capital Wealth Advisors can help you create a plan that shows you how taxes could affect you now and in the future. Set up your tax strategy session with Mike Stevens and Capital Wealth Advisors now. Call 801-210-5500. That's 801-210-5500. Make sure you know how these changes could affect you so you can avoid some of those whoa moments in retirement. Call 801-210-5500. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Your tax refund belongs to you, not an identity thief. Over $6 billion in tax refunds were flagged by the IRS for possible identity theft in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Our U.S.-based restoration specialists are experts dedicated to helping solve your identity theft issues, and all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package. So we'll reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. Don't let someone else enjoy your refund. Save up to 25% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Denise has been playing jazz for 40 years. Last concert, one of the musicians fell sick with RSV. Respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is a highly contagious virus that can lead to breathing problems. This time, she's choosing to help protect herself with Pfizer's RSV vaccine, Abrysvo. Abrysvo is a vaccine for the prevention of lower respiratory tract disease caused by respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, in adults 60 years of age and older. Abrysvo is not for everyone and may not protect all who receive the vaccine. Don't get Abrysvo if you've had a severe allergic reaction to its ingredients. People with a weakened immune system may have a decreased response to Abrysvo. The most common side effects are tiredness, headache, pain at the injection site, and muscle pain. Ask your pharmacist or doctor about Pfizer's RSV vaccine, Abrysvo, respiratory syncytial virus vaccine. For full prescribing information, please call 1-844-989-7284 or visit abrysvo.com. Brought to you by Pfizer.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, teachers who carry guns at school would be protected from liability under a bill in Utah's legislature. Second, with snow in the valleys later this week, UDOT is reminding drivers not to park on State Street. And third, funding to support Israel's war with Hamas would wind up taking money from the IRS under a plan backed by the Speaker of the House. Right now, 46 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
There's a significant ruling that happened this morning during Utah's morning news, and Tim and Amanda broke the news live, that a federal appeals court had rejected former President Trump's claim of absolute immunity. This answers a major question that has never been asked before. It didn't have to be asked before because we've never had a president indicted the way President Trump has been indicted after he left office. Can former presidents get away or escape being held accountable by the criminal justice system for acts that were committed during the course of their service in office?
Yeah, and this is specifically talking about, January 6th, and should he be held responsible for what happened? When he was president, he's holding rallies, he's challenging the results of the election, and this was a unanimous ruling by the three-judge panel on the appeals court.
Yeah, I want to break down this ruling, the judges by Democrat and Republican appointments, two appointed by Democrats, one appointed by Republicans. So, and it was a unanimous ruling, Greg scored us. So we've got that question out of the way because we know some of our listeners would be wondering how this panel was comprised, at least regarding political appointments. And this looks like this is going to head to the Supreme Court. He's been given, I think, a deadline of Monday to appeal the ruling to the United States Supreme Court.
That's right. And the trial court has agreed to not set the trial. I mean, the trial was originally set for the first week of March, but the trial court judge said, look, I'm not going to make the trial go forward until this particular issue is decided. We usually call this like an interlocutory appeal, where you're deciding a particular issue on a case that could determine the outcome of the case. So, yeah, the trial's not going now that the Court of Appeals has ruled, like you say, unanimously that he doesn't have immunity. It's back on the trial calendar, but the trial judge is going to wait and see if the Supreme Court grants what we call cert and whether they're going to take the case.
Greg, I know this is not necessarily your area of expertise, constitutional law, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You tell me whether or not you can speak to this. But I'd like to talk about the vision behind immunity for presidents in the first place. What was the purpose behind it, and how widespread is it, or all-encompassing is it?
Well, we grant a lot of our government officials what we call governmental immunity, Dave, and that's because we want people to act in office. This includes police officers, public servants, and other respects, without being feared that everything they're doing could be looked at criminally. When a police officer acts and they use a gun or something like that, they could be charged with a homicide, so we give them what's called governmental immunity. And the same applies with our governmental leaders. Can we give them some comfort in knowing that the decisions they make are not going to be looked at as criminal? And that's pretty broad. It's pretty far-reaching. So in order to charge a public official for conduct occurring in office, it has to be pretty egregious conduct. It has to be something that is more than just related to their position, related to maybe a bad judgment that they made in connection with their position. It has to be something like, in this case, the alleged insurrection that's pretty outrageous.
And we do see this from local district attorneys that may charge a police officer even if he uses his gun in the line of duty.
Exactly. That's sort of what we're talking about. I mean, this is presidential immunity, but it flows from the same legal theory, which is governmental immunity, immunity for people who act in the public interest from being charged criminally, because sometimes they have to do things that are a little more difficult than you and I have to do in our daily lives.
And it's within the scope of their work. It could easily be argued, I'm sure it has been argued, that when President Trump was holding that rally and doing all the things that he's accused allegedly of doing, that wasn't real. That's not truly in the scope of his work. Whereas you might consider something like he makes a decision about killing a known terrorist on the terrorist watch list and authorizing the Navy SEALs to go in and do that. That would be a far different scenario, right?
Yeah, so that's a perfect example, Debbie. Was it connected to his work? I mean, is there some connection to being the president of the United States to wanting to make sure elections are done fairly? Yes, but does that include having people march on the Capitol and try to change Congress in their constitutional
through
duties?
violence and force?
Probably not going to go that far. And I think that was the exact question that the Court of Appeals wrestled with, which is what constitutes in the course of their duties as an officer of the United States. And dealing with an insurrection, probably not. Dealing with terrorists overseas, yeah, that would probably constitute within the scope of their employment and their government acts.
So what role will the Supreme Court play in this?
Well, a huge role. One is that if they'll take the case up, and if they do, and they forestall the trial again, they may not get to the case in time before November, which will be the election. If Trump's elected, he may very well get the Justice Department to dismiss the case or even grant himself a pardon. So the Supreme Court holds a lot of cards here, Dave, and not the least of which is when will they make a decision, if at all. They may decide not to hear the case, and if that's the case, the trial court there in Washington, D.C. may set a trial, and that judge seems anxious to try the case before November of 2024.
Greg Skordas, our legal analyst, on the line with us right now, helping us walk through the Federal Appeals Court's decision today to reject former President Trump's claims of absolute immunity when it comes to his federal case regarding January 6th. And this just it's like the wildest story gets even wilder when you say, like, this could all be pushed back to the point that he, if he gets in office, he could grant himself a pardon. I mean, am I the only one who thinks that sounds so slimy?
Oh, no, it's awful. And it really creates some constitutional issues. And people wonder, can you grant yourself a pardon? I mean, we haven't had people do that before in this country, but there's no limit on the presidential pardon power. And so we may very well test that. He may very well get a new Department of Justice head, Attorney General, who will dismiss the charges.
Greg, I am sure he will. I am absolutely sure he will have a whole. Who knows? Under if he's elected again under President Trump, if we even have a Department of Justice after this whole thing is said and done. That's my hyperbole for the day. I don't know that he would do that, but this thing is so wild and so many twists and turns. I don't know if I'm ready for another wild ride, but here we are. We may be in store for one. Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst, thank you so much for making sense of this. It just gets crazier and crazier.
Well, I look at the whole immunity conversation. We stick a lot of these public officials and we ask them to do things that you and I we can kind of sit back and think, oh, I would never do that. I would never act that way. Well, we don't know because we're not in that situation. Now, you say President Trump didn't have anything to, like, what's his role in fair elections? He's the president of the United States, making sure we have fair elections. I think there is a lot of latitude that most of us would give to the president.
Find me 11,781 votes, and then there are counties in Arizona. Let's start with Pima County and move over to Maricopa County, and then from there we'll go to La Paz County. Yeah.
So we should never question.
We should always question. We should always question even the President of the United States. Straight ahead. Boyd's in next. We're at the 11 o'clock hour already. Here we go.
The show's flying by.
Yeah, we're trying to. Boyd is going to break down for us the latest on. It's talking about craziness in Congress. The latest on the border policy bill, the bipartisan border bill. They can't seem to get this thing out of the Senate, but Boyd knows what's in store for this. He's going to share that with us next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. A new bill would jump Utah's minimum wage for everyone, but how much would depend on a worker's age. Here's KSL News Radio's Peter Johnston.
Representative Brett Garner wants Utah teens to earn at least $10 an hour for their work. Pay would go up with age until those over 23 years old would receive a minimum of $19 an hour. Garner says he's running this bill to fill a policy gap around housing affordability because he says other lawmakers are focused on making housing cheaper instead of growing people's buying power.
The bill would also require Utah's Division of Labor to raise this every year by at least 25 cents. The state now seeking independent testing on Ralph Menzies to determine whether he's mentally competent enough for execution. That comes after Menzies' attorneys claimed it's been so long since he was convicted and sentenced to death that he no longer understands the reason for his execution. Court filings say Menzies is suffering from dementia, and that could make putting him to death unconstitutional. He was found guilty of murdering Maureen Hunsaker in 1986. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. While King Charles III is being treated for cancer, others down the royal line will have to do more to compensate. More from ABC's Tom Rivers.
With public duties off the agenda for Charles for the foreseeable future, others will be picking up the slack. First and foremost, William, the Prince of Wales. ABC News royal contributor Alistair Bruce.
I think he'll be wanting to help his father out as much as he can, and that's exactly what he exists to do, and he's getting on with it.
And as for the rest of the royals...
Because it's a family that works to support the king, those that are in the working royal family will do their bit.
Tom Rivers, ABC News, London.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day right now, 85 points, while the NASDAQ is down right now about 60 points. And our KSL weather, we've got rain coming in and we'll see snow by the end of the week. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Are you ready to just take charge of your physical health and well-being? Now's the perfect time to do it, and the best way to do it is with SOTA Weight Loss. SOTA stands for State-of-the-Art Weight Loss. Because it is. It's state-of-the-art. It'll help you deal with all of the challenges that normally go unaddressed when it deals with weight loss. You're going to have your own coach and nutritionist that are going to help you tackle the mental, emotional habits, the behaviors associated that will allow you to let that excess weight go. The pounds and inches fall off. It's amazing. I lost 37 pounds in just 90 days, and now it's been almost 2 full years. I am still 37 pounds down. I've never felt better all through SOTA Weight Loss, and I'm not the only one. There's thousands of people across the country with similar results. It puts you in charge and you in control of what your body needs, how you get it, and how you can really thrive. Do it with SOTA Weight Loss, as I always say, when it comes to your SOTA Weight Loss journey. There's no time to lose, only time to win, so start winning today. Check it out at SOTAweightloss.com, SOTAweightloss.com.
You're free now. Free to kick back, relax, and stream beyond your wildest dreams.
Rom-coms, slasher comps, space operas, space westerns, cupcake bake-offs on Mars.
Free to fill your feed with impossibly chonky chonkers who chonk harder than you ever thought possible.
Cats, corgis, babies, baby penguins, baby pandas, chunky baby pandas.
Free to make your smart devices do silly things.
Bowl of chips on the robo-vacuum.
And master devices that have no business being smart.
Smart forks, smart toothbrushes, smart tortilla makers.
Free to open a world of remote work and a portal into Gametopia.
Who's the boss now?
Free to be everything you imagine, and then some. That's how it feels to have quantum fiber. Quantum Fiber, your world unleashed. Learn more at quantumfiber.com. Limited availability. Service in select locations only.
Made to Shine. Love stories from Shane Company customers.
We've only been dating 6 months, but I really wanted to get my girlfriend something special for Valentine's Day. So I went to Shane Company, and they thought a gift with their birthstone would be meaningful. So I got her an opal necklace, and their opals are spectacular. I was surprised it was only a couple $100. I can't wait to give it to her.
We're passionate about sourcing the most beautiful gemstones from around the world, so your love can shine bright. Shane Company. Fine jewelry since 1929.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Just one problem to report. It's a crash in Utah County. It's on the exit ramp from southbound I-15 at the Pleasant Grove Boulevard off-ramp. It is blocking a right lane of traffic. You can get by. Stay to the left. It can be a tight squeeze. Lagoon is looking for ride maintenance technicians. Lagoon offers excellent mechanical training programs with amazing career opportunities. Ride maintenance technician position is full-time and year-round. Details, visit lagoonpark.com/jobs. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather will see valley rain and mountain snow along the Wasatch Front this afternoon and evening. That will continue through the day tomorrow with up to 20 inches of snow in high mountain areas. Snow could reach the valley floors by Friday. Right now, it's 48 degrees with mostly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
I think we're going to start calling Washington, D.C. the Department of Confusion and Chaos. It's Washington, D.C.C. now. We've got a lot of conflict going on with this bipartisan border deal that I thought was going to happen this week. Now we're not so sure. $118 billion aid for Ukraine and Israel, along with border security at the southern border, Dave.
Senate Republicans, they're making a move. They don't like this deal. In fact, we've seen from Senator Mike Lee. Mike Lee has been a steady stream of tweets right now, or posts, whatever we're calling them now. But he is not happy with this deal, and he's been very vocal about it. Boyd Matheson joins us right now. Why are they so unhappy with this?
Well, I think it's one of those things where when you actually get into the bill, you actually find out what's in the bill. And so that's
oddly enough.
Oddly enough. Yeah. And there are interesting things in there. There are things that I think everyone should be happy about and excited about, and there are things that are very concerning. Some of those things don't even have anything to do with aid to Israel or Ukraine or the border. There is $2.9 billion in there for uranium enrichment in the United States. Not sure what that has to do with foreign aid or with the border, but it's in there. And so those are the kinds of things when you start actually going through the bill text that get problematic. The interesting thing to me is some of the gimmicky stuff that is in there. So on one hand, you can claim there is money in there to build the border wall. And you can say that honestly. And if you read the text, it says it's really a gimmick. They're taking some funds that were not spent on the border wall and designating them for the border wall. But wait, there's more. They're postponing that at the president's discretion to 2028. So they're saying we're putting funding in here for the border wall. They're really just taking money that wasn't spent on the border wall before, and now they're saying we're going to spend it on the border wall, and the president is going to push that off until fiscal year 2028.
Boy, just to clarify, there's a border wall there. It doesn't extend the whole, realm of the area, but there's hundreds of miles of border wall. It's been in place for a really long time. Would that add to that, or is that replacing the border wall? They just want to extend it?
It's really kind of a combination. It's extending the wall in places where there are big gaps where people are coming through. It's also repairing and upgrading those kinds of things as well. So there's a lot in it. It's very complicated. Senator Schumer has said he's going to bring it to the floor of the Senate tomorrow. So that means that senators will have had 48 hours to play with this text and figure out what's really in there. There are some things that are very much misconceptions on both the left and the right. We talked about this yesterday. There are things that the Republicans have been screaming for decades that they're now screaming against. And there are things that Democrats have been screaming against that suddenly they're for, which tells us where we really are in this process, and that is it's all politics. I thought one of the most intriguing quotes yesterday actually came from Democratic Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey. He said that if the bill that was in front of him had been presented by the Republicans during the Trump administrations, Democrats would have freaked out. He says, now, for the sake of winning an election, we're going to vote for this. And he said he will not vote for that. So there's already 2 Democrats have said, nope, I'm out. You've got Senator Menendez and Senator Padilla saying no. So the test will be this. Will there be enough Democrats to get it across? They've lost 2. They can't lose any more. Senator Schumer does not want to take a bill to the floor that loses because Democrats aren't there. The other question will be how many Republicans do say yes. I think they have to get up to 20 Republicans to say yes for it to have any chance of actually moving forward in the House.
Because that's got to hit the 60-vote threshold in the Senate.
That's correct. So they've got to have a minimum of that. But again, I don't think Chuck Schumer wants to take this vote for political purposes to be able to say, look, a good chunk of the Republicans voted against border security. Vote them out. So he wants that vote tomorrow badly. But he's struggling within his own conference to see if he has enough votes to make sure he can get there. Mitch McConnell has a whole other problem as the Republican infighting continues.
So would this be giving President Biden a win when what is going on in the southern border right now, it is a huge liability. It's polling very poorly for the president. So as you talk about this being so politically motivated, I just wonder how much of this is Republicans saying we can't give a solution to the president because we can't campaign on it for the next 8 months.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it. And there's no question. I mean, some of the statements that the president has made, and we're still waiting. He was supposed to speak about an hour and a half ago. We're still waiting for the president to speak today. We'll cover that. But the president is saying things that if you would have told me 6 months ago or 20 years ago that President Biden would say, give me the power and I will shut down the border completely, that's not even in the realm of possibility. And some of the things we've heard from Republicans are absolutely equally as ludicrous, all for the very reason you're pointing out, Dave. It's all politics. None of this has anything to do with good policy.
Is part of this trusting the American people, though, by saying, listen, if we're going to pass this, then all of a sudden it turns from a do-nothing Congress into, hey, we can actually do our job occasionally. You would think that you could spin this if you're a Republican or a Democrat and trust that the American people can sift through the reality of it.
Yeah, and that point is so important, Dave, because both sides believe this is a winning political thing for them. It's a winning political argument for them. And they are both so afraid of losing the power of the political argument that they're not willing to risk doing their job. Because if they do their job, they just might lose the political leverage they need to win re-election in November.
But they can't complain about it. If they start fixing it, there's nothing left to complain about. There's nothing left to finger point over. I mean, there will be things. This will take years to unravel the mess that's been created down there from, lack of necessary resources and enforcement and steps that should have been taken decades ago that just weren't. Throughout numerous different political entities controlling the White House and controlling Congress. So I'm on that page now. I'm to the point where I'm so burnt out about listening to the rhetoric. I don't care what the tweet is. I don't care what the soundbite is. It's just like, just get in there and fix it. And if you're not in there fixing it, don't just be tweeting and saying stuff that really isn't helpful. Come up with solutions.
Yeah, that's right.
Get to work. That's what we pay you to do. Just get to work.
That's right. And that's where it comes back to we the people, that we have to keep demanding of our members of Congress that they do the job that we elected them to do. We did not elect them for sunny days and sunshine and lollipop days in Congress. Anybody can do that. We send them there to do the hard stuff. And this is one of the very, very few things, and amazingly the things we talk about most. The things that are in the Constitution that they're supposed to do, immigration and border security is one of them. Funding the government is the other. And those are the two things that they both love because of the idea of holding on to power rather than the power of ideas of actually getting to policy and doing the job.
And because they've abdicated that responsibility for so long, you've got a Republican governor, Greg Abbott, in Texas that is like, fine, I'll build the wall. And he's starting to build the wall in sections, which is, again, option number 3. I didn't know option number 3 was even out there.
Federalism is going to take over in a big way on the border.
Boyd Matheson, thank you. Look forward to Inside Sources today, starting at 1.
This is like they were doing mic checks there for the president to address the nation any moment now regarding the border security legislation that is just having a hard time getting out of the gates. The moment the president speaks, we'll take you there live. In the meantime, as promised, a deep dive into the state of maternity leave for brand new mamas across Utah. An expert on this issue who's been researching it joins us next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Here's a trick to podcasting at work and getting all the Utah news you love.
Download the KSL News Radio app.
The podcast for Utah's morning news and Dave and Debbie are right there. Dozens of podcasts a day.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
The last thing you want in the morning is more noise.
The day's just getting started. Maybe you're feeling a little anxious or overwhelmed, and it's not even 8 yet.
So catching up on important news stories, some sense of weather and traffic, it shouldn't be stressful.
Get a wrap on the day ahead from smart, inviting voices who know you're trying to ease in.
Do you love a rainy day?
I do, actually.
I do too.
Tim and Amanda, mornings from 5 to 9. They have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Hey, folks, let me tell you, if you want some electrical work done, but you're overwhelmed yourself, no worries. We got the people for you, Master Electrical.
I was just looking at lighting around my house and in my kitchen, and I thought it just needs a little tinge of an upgrade in certain spots because I have, like you have, dark area over my dining table. It's not working out so well for me. Master Electrical, your go-to for everything electrical. You're going to love their upfront pricing guarantee. That's what you're going to get when they give you the bid, and you're going to pay that price when the job is done.
So you're telling me you're done with the candlelit dinners? You're like, no more candles.
Romantic dinners with myself. Yeah, I need some lighting. I need some real lights.
That's right. It's lights, ceiling fans, smoke detectors, generators, all sorts of stuff. Anything that has to do with electrical, Master Electrical are you guys.
Yep. Logan to Santaquin, they serve everywhere in between, and they're always open, including for emergency services. So give them a call today, 801-543-2222. Again, 801-543-2222.
Or check them out online at masterelectrical.com.
Tuacahn Amphitheater 72-hour ticket sale is here. From February 6th to the 8th, you can save big. This is the first time to save on individual show tickets. When you buy a ticket of any of Tuacahn's 5 never-before-seen Broadway shows this season, you'll get the second one at up to 50% off. You can also get access to the brand new cushioned seats in rows A through O before they're sold out. Just use promo code 72radio at checkout. Traverse across Europe in Anastasia. Let it go in Disney's Frozen. And follow the rise of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons in Jersey Boys. Featuring a new...
President Biden stepping up to the microphone moments ago, speaking about the Senate border deal. CNN reporting it is nearing collapse. Let's listen to President Biden.
Politically. Therefore, he doesn't, even though it helps the country, he's not for it. He'd rather weaponize this issue than actually solve it. So for the last 24 hours, he's done nothing, I'm told, but reach out to Republicans in the House and the Senate and threaten them and try to intimidate them to vote against this proposal. And it looks like they're caving. Frankly, they owe it to the American people to show some spine and do what they know to be right. So I want to tell the American people what's in this bill and why everyone, from the Wall Street Journal to the Border Patrol, to the Chamber of Commerce, the United States Chamber of Commerce, support this bill. Because it's going to make the country safer, make the border more secure, treat people more humanely and fairly, and make legal immigration more efficient and consistent with the values of our nation and our international treaty obligations. It would finally provide the funding that I've repeatedly requested, most recently in October, to actually secure the border. That includes an additional 1,000 500 border agents and officers to secure the border, to physically secure it. In addition, 100 cutting-edge machines to detect and stop fentanyl at the southwest border. We have that capacity. An additional 100 additional immigration judges to help reduce the year-long asylum backlog. You show up for asylum, and the judge is supposed to talk to you. It takes a year to get that discussion going. This bill would also establish new, efficient, and fair process for the government to consider an asylum claim for those arriving at the border. Today, the process can take 5 to 7 years, as you all know. They show up at the border, get a bracelet, told to come back when called, 5 to 7 years from now, in country. That's too long, and it's not rational. With the new policies in this bill and the additional of 4,300 more asylum officers who spend hours, I might add, with each immigrant to consider their claims, whether they qualify, we'll be able to reduce that process to 6 months, not 5 to 7 years. This bipartisan bill will also expedite work permits so those who are here and who qualify can begin work more quickly. That's something that our governors, our mayors, and our business leaders have been asking me for and asking them for. All across the country, they've been asking for this. It'll also create more opportunities for families to come together for business, to hire additional workers. And for the first time in 30 years, this bipartisan legislation increases the number of immigrant visas for people legally able to come to this country through ports of entry. And it ensures that for the first time that vulnerable, unaccompanied young children have legal representation at the border. This bill would also give me, as president, the emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed. The numbers are talking over 5,000 people trying to get in one day. The bill, if the bill were law today, it would qualify to be shut down right now while we repair it. Bottom line is this bipartisan bill is a win for America because it makes important fixes to our broken immigration system. And it's the toughest, fairest law that's ever been proposed relative to the border. Now, it doesn't address everything that I wanted. For example, we still need a path of documentation for those who are already here. And we're not walking away from true immigration reform, including permanent protections and a pathway to citizenship for young dreamers who came here when they were children and who have been good citizens and contribute so much to our country. But the reforms in this bill are essential for making our border more orderly, more humane, and more secure. That's why the Border Patrol Union, which, by the way, endorsed Donald Trump in the 2020 election, endorses this bill. These are the people whose job it is to secure the border every single solitary day. They don't just show up for photo ops like some members of Congress. They're there to do their job. This is the risk, the thing many of them risk their lives doing every single day. And they decided, the Border Patrol decided, this gives them the tools they need to do the job. More personnel across the board. It's also why the U.S. Chamber of Commerce endorsed this bill, because they know this bill is not just good for the border, it's also good for American business and for the American economy. And it's why the Wall Street Journal endorsed the bill, with the headline this morning which reads, quote, "A border security bill worth passing. The Senate has reforms Trump never came close to getting." That's the quote from the Journal. This bill would also address two other important priorities. First, it provides urgent funding for Ukraine. I'm wearing my Ukraine tie, my Ukraine pin, which I've been wearing because they're in dire straits right now defending themselves against a Russian onslaught, a brutal conquest. The clock is ticking. Every week, every month that passes without new aid to Ukraine means fewer artillery shells, fewer air defense systems, fewer tools for Ukraine to defend itself against this Russian onslaught, just what Putin wants. Ukrainians are fighting bravely. You know, many of you, I look around the room here, have followed me in this for a long time. I pulled together a coalition of over 50 nations to support them. On the phone, talking to these leaders. We unified NATO. Remember when we first came to office? NATO was in, well, they're all together and actually increased the size of NATO. We can't walk away now. That's what Putin's betting on. Supporting this bill is standing up to Putin. Opposing this bill is playing into his hands. As I've said before, the stakes on this fight extend well beyond Ukraine. If we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself to just Ukraine. And the cost for America and our allies and partners will rise. For those Republicans in Congress who think they can oppose funding for Ukraine and not be held accountable, history is watching. History is watching. The failure to support Ukraine at this critical moment will never be forgotten. The position of the MAGA Republicans can be characterized by the New York Times headline. First, and this is the headline, it reads, Trump first, Putin second, America third. That cannot pertain. This bipartisan agreement also provides Israel with what it needs to protect its people and defend itself against Hamas terrorists. And it will provide the necessary life-saving humanitarian assistance for the Palestinian people. By opposing this bill, they're denying aid to the people who are really suffering and desperately need help. You know, there's more work to get this done over the finish line, and I want to be clear. Doing nothing is not an option. Republicans have to decide. For years, they said they want to secure the border. Now they have the strongest border bill this country has ever seen. We're seeing statements about how many oppose the bill now. Look, I understand the former president is desperately trying to stop this bill because he's not interested in solving the border problem. He wants a political issue to run against me. They've all but said that across the board. No one really denies that I'm aware of. The American people want a solution that puts an end to the empty political rhetoric, which has failed to do anything for so long. We have to get the resources to the border to get the job done. So Republicans have to decide, who do they serve? Donald Trump or the American people? Are they here to solve problems or just weaponize those problems for political purposes? I know my answer. I serve the American people. I'm here to solve problems. It was just months ago that Republicans were asking for this exact bill to deal with the border, to provide support for Ukraine and Israel. And now it's here. And they're saying, never mind, never mind. Folks, we've got to move past this toxic politics. It's time to stop playing games with the world waiting and watching. And by the way, the world is waiting. The world is watching. They are waiting and watching what we're going to do. We can't continue to let petty partisan politics get in the way of our responsibility. We're a great nation. It's not acting like a great nation. So I'm calling on Congress to pass this bill, get it to my desk immediately. But if the bill fails, I want to be absolutely clear about something. The American people are going to know why it failed. I'll be taking this issue to the country. And the voters are going to know that it's not just a moment, just at the moment, we're going to secure the border and fund these other programs. Trump and the MAGA Republicans said no, because they're afraid of Donald Trump. Afraid of Donald Trump. Every day between now and November, the American people are going to know that the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican friends. It's time for Republicans in the Congress to show a little courage, to show a little spine, to make it clear to the American people that you work for them, not for anyone else. I know who I work for. I work for the American people. I'm almost like this. We have to remember who in God's name we are. We're the United States of America. You've heard me say it many times. There's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. We're right on the verge of doing it together. I hope and pray they find reason to reconsider blowing this up. May God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Folks, you're going to ask me questions. Hang on a second. I'm going to be back on Thursday, and I don't want to prejudice what may be going on in negotiations now. So I'm not going to be answering any questions of this. I'll be back Thursday to stand here with you and answer all the questions you want about this issue. Thank you.
President Biden telling the press corps gathered around for that about 7-8 minute address to the American people about the border security bill, that he will put their questions on hold, let Congress do their thing, and then he'd be back later in the week to address any follow-up questions. He really did a very explicit job of spelling out what that bill is, and that's probably the most clarity I've heard about this bill coming from the president himself. And I think we should break it down for folks who might have missed that, Dave.
Yeah, there were a lot of specifics in there. He broke it down to how many Border Patrol agents would be added to it, how many judges, how long, who would, how much they would reform the asylum process, cut down the wait time. There were a lot of really tangible specifics that you don't typically hear from politicians, but this was very clear, very interesting.
Let's break it down straight ahead.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour: Governor Spencer Cox backing a resolution that rejects a proposed land exchange with the federal government near the Bears Ears National Monument. The state had worked out an understanding on the land trade, but the resolution introduced by Representative Casey Snyder rejects that deal. He claims the state of Utah would manage those lands better than the federal government. There's a new organization called the Rosie Project helping military spouses. CEO Anissa Brown says she created the project so spouses have a community to welcome them when they move from one base to another. The group also helps them find technical jobs with the Department of Defense.
And if we can work to give them a sense of community and give them opportunities that kind of move with them, then they will always have a sense of belonging and an opportunity to give back and to grow their career.
You can learn more by visiting the Rosie Project's website. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: a federal appeals panel in Washington has ruled against former President Trump and his legal team. They argued he was immune from facing criminal charges for things he did when he was president.
One is President Trump's stance would collapse our system of separation of powers. We cannot accept that the office of the presidency places its former occupants above the law for all time thereafter.
That's ABC News' Jonathan Karl. Trump could appeal that decision directly to the U.S. Supreme Court. Your money at this moment: the Dow Jones average up on the day right now, 67 points, while the NASDAQ is down 40 points. And our KSL weather: we'll get rain tomorrow and snow by Friday. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Getting your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt can lead to some spirited reactions.
Jackson Hewitt!
Jackson Hewitt is so sure that you'll get your biggest refund that if they don't, you get your money back plus $100.
Jackson Hewitt!
And Jackson Hewitt also guarantees the accuracy of your return for life. So don't just sit there. For your biggest refund guaranteed, walk into a Jackson Hewitt today and dance out Jackson Hewitt! Yeah!
It's a mystery where Old Spice finds its amazing scents like Himalayan sea salt, but I'm thrilled they have, because no other body wash exfoliates and moisturizes 24/7 like Old Spice Gentleman's Himalayan Sea Salt Body Wash. Now, if only there was a mountain range separating the Indian subcontinent from the Tibetan plateau where I could hide my Old Spice and keep my family from stealing it, my impossibly smooth skin will finally be safe.
The first time I tried to quit vaping, I told myself that it was like a mountain that I had to climb over. And once I got to the other side, it would be clear. But I couldn't make it over. What really got me to quit was my little sister. I saw her vaping. So I was back in the mountain, but this time, she was up there with me. It's weird what you can do for others that you won't do for yourself.
Every attempt is part of your story to quit for good. Visit Kick It California today at kickitca.org.
God, I'm so stressed. It's a brand new year and our business is busier than ever.
Ooh, Ma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 35 features.
Ooma?
Yep. Switching to Ooma is a cinch. Starts at $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Visit Ooma.com. That's OOMA.com to learn more. Ooma. Smart communications for the smarter business.
Jeff Kaplan here. Every once in a while, I do my show from home, and you probably wouldn't be able to tell. I'm on KSL and sending video to the internet all at the same time because I have Xfinity Wi-Fi. It's pretty amazing because at the same time, my wife's streaming a movie, grandkids come over, one's watching YouTube, two are playing Minecraft, and others watching a flick, all while Grandma says, "Shh, Papa's on the air." We run all these devices, and I do a show thanks to my reliable, fast connection. Xfinity Wi-Fi is a game changer. Get wall-to-wall Wi-Fi on the Xfinity 10G network for a reliable connection throughout your home. Now through March 21st, new customers can get started with 1.2 gigabit internet for $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract and Wi-Fi equipment included when you add unlimited mobile. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and Wi-Fi equipment. Actual speeds vary.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from the station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
A tow truck has just arrived on the scene of this crash in Utah County on the exit ramp from southbound I-15 at Pleasant Grove Boulevard. And we also have a report of a crash downtown between 7th and 8th South and 500 West. Salt Lake Magazine calls Swan Lake breathtaking, featuring the timeless music of Tchaikovsky, performed live with the Ballet West Orchestra February 9th through the 17th. Buy tickets at balletwest.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we'll see valley rain and mountain snow along the Wasatch Front this afternoon and evening, and that will continue through the day tomorrow with up to 20 inches of snow in the high mountain areas, and snow could reach the valley floors by Friday. Right now, 50 degrees, mostly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Just moments ago, President Biden addressing the nation, appealing to Republican members of Congress to get President Donald Trump out of their heads and get a border deal done. We're going to outline that border deal in just a moment.
He'd rather weaponize this issue than actually solve it. So for the last 24 hours, he's done nothing, I'm told, but reach out to Republicans in the House and the Senate and threaten them and try to intimidate them to vote against this proposal. And it looks like they're caving. Frankly, they owe it to the American people to show some spine and do what they know to be right.
Hey, we've got some breaking news here. Can we fire the sounder here? It's a little live producing here, and David Dujanovic, but a verdict is being read right now in the Michigan school shooter's mother, who is being charged with not securing the firearm. Anyway, the judge is about to read the verdict.
Let's listen.
That is correct.
Are you the correct person?
I am.
Could you please read your verdict?
Individually?
Sure.
Okay.
On count 1 of involuntary manslaughter as to Madison Baldwin, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter. On count 2 of involuntary manslaughter in regards to Tate Muir, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter. On count 3 as to involuntary manslaughter regarding Hannah St. Juliana, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter. And in count 4 of involuntary manslaughter against Justin Schilling, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
Thank you for allowing me to see it, and I'm going to listen for always hold the jury.
Jury seat number 1, was that, and is that your verdict?
It is.
Jury
Guilty on all
two,
counts. That was the end of jury deliberations in Michigan, as the jury decided that Jennifer Crumbley was grossly negligent and also guilty of the other charges that she was charged with, including negligent manslaughter regarding the gun that was used by her son, Ethan Crumbley, to execute that school shooting in Michigan.
You'll remember these parents had purchased a gun for their son. It was a Black Friday deal, and they purchased this gun. And Jennifer Crumbley had made the argument that it was her husband's responsibility to lock the gun up, lock it away, keep it safe, that wasn't really her role as the mother. She was uncomfortable with guns. But both the parents of Ethan Crumbley are now being charged, and Jennifer Crumbley was just found guilty on all charges for involuntary manslaughter for the role she played in not protecting the gun or keeping the gun away from her son, who had a history of mental illness, had been experiencing hallucinations, and then committed that terrible crime.
Yeah, and he's been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for killing the 4 students in that school shooting. And now his mother will also face sentencing. I'm not sure in the case of a Michigan court if sentencing happens immediately or if there will be a sentencing date set today. But this, I think this is a very, very significant development in a situation like this, because so often kids are getting to their parents' guns. And what will this do in future cases to parents who, even if you don't know potentially that your child has the gun? What does this mean? Well, we should get Greg Skordas back on the line to get some legal analysis on this development.
Absolutely. What is the responsibility of the parent in these situations? Because this is a huge change, because typically you would hold the shooter responsible and the shooter exclusively. To expand out who you can charge with a crime and convict with a crime to the parents and their responsibility, despite them not committing or planning or participating in any of the actions of the actual school shooting, them being held responsible is really significant. I think you're absolutely right. We need to reach out to Greg Skordas and find out what his thoughts are on this verdict, especially when it was revealed that she was guilty on all 4 accounts of involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah, one for each of the victims in the attack at Oxford High School. That attack was in November of 2021. Her son is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. And now his mother has just been convicted on all counts. And the jury deliberated for just a couple of hours with, it seems like, a singular ask for some clarification on jury instructions. Usually that does spell bad news. If you are the defense attorney, that means you've likely lost the case and the prosecution has easily proven its case to the jury. And that's, in fact, what happened. Just in the last few minutes, we've learned that Jennifer Crumbley guilty on all counts that she was charged with regarding her son's use and access to that gun that was used in that school shooting in 2021.
It's also significant to acknowledge that the school has not been charged with any kind of a crime that I've seen. School officials, you might remember in this story, were aware that Ethan had been drawing disturbing pictures, drawings just hours before the fatal shooting. They were aware of this. They addressed it. I believe, and this is going back into memory banks a little bit, that they had reached out to the parents with some of these concerns. So how much of a responsibility lies on the school as well as the parents and then the shooter himself?
We've had two major developing stories in just the last 15 minutes. The first, president addressing the nation, telling Congress to get President Trump out of their head, Republican members of Congress to get President Trump out of their heads, work for the American people, and challenging them to get this border security legislation passed and to his desk ASAP. There's been a lot of information that the president has put out about that border security bill. And we are continuing to follow that story. So if you missed it, you can always tune in, of course, to Boyd's show, to Jeff's show, and also to KSLNewsRadio.com. Dave and I will have more details on that in just a moment. We're also in the process of reaching out right now to KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas to get his reaction to this jury verdict that the mom of the shooter in Michigan is guilty regarding involuntary manslaughter in this unprecedented case when her son was actually the shooter. More on that straight ahead as well.
Dave and Dujanovic.
A lot of us are filling our workdays with podcasts.
When you're working, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
Click on Dave and Debbie's podcast and pick a topic and story length.
Podcast with Dave and Debbie. Then get to work with KSL News Radio.
Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Valentine's Day is here. This year, give the ultimate gift. Name a star after your sweetheart. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For 45 years, we've named millions of stars for celebrities, dignitaries, and individuals worldwide. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can give the most memorable gift. The star your name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333.
If you only have a 401k, you're not getting the most for retirement.
Wait, what?
Add a Robinhood IRA on top, then they'll boost it by 3%.
You can do that?
And if you transfer in any retirement account, you get 3% on top of that.
Is there a limit to the match?
No limit. Robinhood Gold gets you the biggest contribution match of any IRA on the market. Sign up for Robinhood Gold at Robinhood.com/boost by April 30th. Subscription fees apply.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires gold for 1 year from first match. Must keep IRA for 5 years. Match on transfers subject to additional terms and conditions. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC.
Many people, Amanda, I think, start each new year with one of two resolutions. One is to lose weight. The other is to save money.
Yeah.
And if you struggle to do that in the past, UCCU has an automatic way to help you.
I have used these wonderful savings goals, savings accounts at UCCU so many times. In fact, I just set one up. It's so easy. You just go and you tell it, what are you saving for? So right now I'm saving for a senior trip for my youngest son. Mm-hmm. And I tell it, I have until June of 2025. I want to save this much money. And then it will tell you, all right, well then every month or every other week or whatever you want to do, you have to set aside this much and it will automatically take it out of your savings account.
You can have as many accounts as you want, name them whatever you want. And let's just say you want to save $600 this year.
Right.
$50 a month will automatically go in and you're reaching your goals. You haven't done a thing.
This is the way to save money and not feel it, which is the way to be successful.
So to get started, just log in to their online or mobile banking and click on any of the goals to begin.
UCCU.com. Utah Community Credit Union. Love where you bank.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business.
On February 8th, the Salt Lake Chamber and Utah Community Builders are hosting an informational session on the importance of having a holistic approach to employee health. Presenter and Evolved MD Vice President of Strategy and Chief of Staff, Centauri Minor, joins us with more.
From employee wellness programs to inclusive management training and expanded employee benefits, business leaders are looking for solutions to some of their top workforce needs. One area of concern is employee mental health. According to Mental Health America, Utah ranks 48th in the nation for mental health, with Utah adults having higher rates of mental illness and lower rates of access to care compared to the rest of the country. This is why Evolved MD is partnering with the Salt Lake Chamber and Utah Community Builders to discuss practical solutions for companies on how to make mental health a top priority. By attending this session, business leaders will learn about creating a positive mental health culture and how it incentivizes retention and recruitment strategies. In addition, we will share how to manage employee burnout and learn about the business impact of mental health. A robust discussion to come. I hope you will join us.
As the needs of today's workforce are complex, I encourage you to join us for this discussion on employee mental health on February 8th. To register, visit the Salt Lake Chamber website. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the Utah legislature looking at a bill rejecting a land trade with the federal government. Second, something called the Rosie Project is helping military spouses find jobs that can move with their families. And third, a federal appeals court has ruled against former President Trump, saying an ex-president can be held accountable for what he did while he was in office. Right now, 50 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We can't continue to let petty partisan politics get in the way of our responsibility. We're a great nation. It's not acting like a great nation. So I'm calling on Congress to pass this bill. Get it to my desk immediately.
The president speaking directly to the American people about the border disagreement that is going on in Washington, D.C. right now in Congress, saying this legislation will add 1,500 border agents, 100 machines as well that are capable of detecting fentanyl at the border, 4,300 asylum officers to work with asylum seekers, and much more.
And there's been a common theme, or there was a common theme when the president was talking. He said, this is a really good deal for the GOP, but it's former President Donald Trump that is tanking all of the support.
Republicans have to decide. For years, they said they want to secure the border. Now they have the strongest border bill this country has ever seen. We're seeing statements about how many oppose the bill now. Look, I understand the former president is desperately trying to stop this bill because he's not interested in solving the border problem. He wants a political issue to run against me on. They've all but said that across the board. No one really denies that I'm aware of. The American people want a solution that puts an end to the empty political rhetoric, which has failed to do anything for so long. We have to get the resources to the border to get the job done. So Republicans have to decide, who do they serve? Donald Trump or the American people? Are they here to solve problems or just weaponize those problems for political purposes?
President Biden had pointed to the fact that this bill would provide 1,500 more Border Patrol agents, 100 more judges. He claimed that this would reduce the asylum claim process from 5 to 7 years down to 6 months.
We're going to continue to follow that story from our newsroom, and Maria will have more on that as it develops. Greg Skordas in studio with us now. He's our KSL legal analyst on the heels of a really pretty landmark ruling. From what we know, Greg is shaking his head yes. You're our legal analyst. Greg, you know all. You've been a prosecutor and a defense attorney. You have everything there is to know about the legal system in that brain of yours. And Jennifer Crumbly, Michigan woman, charged in connection with her son's deadly shooting at a school in 2021, now found guilty on 4 separate counts of involuntary manslaughter as well, because he had access to that gun.
Right, and it's an unusual verdict, Debbie, and I appreciate you wanting to talk about this. So she was tried in front of a jury there, and the issue was whether or not she was grossly negligent by giving her son a gun. Now, of course, he's the one that did the shooting. He's the murderer, but it sort of pushes us a little bit on the area of who is ultimately or tangentially, I should say, responsible for the conduct of others. Should parents be held liable, criminally liable in this case, for the conduct of their children when they provide them with firearms or when they make it known, when the child makes it known that they're a danger and the parent does nothing about it? So this pushes the envelope in cases that I think we're going to see more and more of.
Greg, when I heard this and when I looked at it, again, the mother was not accused of planning or facilitating this shooting in any way. It was the fact that they purchased this gun as a gift for their son, knowing that he had had some mental health struggles and issues. So when I see this, I think, okay, so if a parent ever purchases a gun for a child, whether it's a hunting rifle or a pistol or whatever it might be, and then that gun is used in a crime, does this set the precedent that the parent is acting grossly negligent? Because I can think here in Utah, there's a lot of parents that have purchased a hunting rifle or some sort of weapon for the child.
Right, including probably somebody in this very room. I mean,
Yes.
It just happens. It happens all the time. What the case requires, and what Utah law and what Michigan law and other states require, is some level of recklessness. In this case, it's gross negligence. In other words, it may be careless, it may be dumb to buy your kid a gun, but it's grossly negligent when you do something that a normal person would not have done. That's way beyond what the realm of a reasonable person would do, or what a reasonable parent would do. So you look at all the factors, the kid's history, his writings, things that he said to others, and you say, would a normal person have given that person a gun on that day? And the jury in this case said no. A person who's acting reasonably, a parent who really cares about their child, would not have provided the gun in this particular situation.
We're talking right now about the developing story that we've been covering since we heard the jury verdict just moments ago out of Michigan. Jennifer Crumbly was the mother of a teenager who's now serving a life prison sentence for killing 4 students at Oxford High School in Michigan back in 2021. She was just found guilty, the mom, of involuntary manslaughter. And really, this trial is a test of who's responsible. Like you said, Greg, for somebody else pulled the trigger. Her son pulled the trigger. But was she negligent? Is she guilty of teeing him up for this horrible act? And it sounds like the jury in 2 hours decided that the prosecution had a very valid case and said she's guilty on all counts.
Right, and it's a much lower standard than murder. It's much less serious crime than murder. Murder requires an intent to do something. Manslaughter requires recklessly doing something. This is involuntary manslaughter, where we're saying, look, you didn't intend these people to die, but you were criminally negligent. You were grossly negligent in your conduct. And as a result of that conduct, 4 people did die, and this woman now faces up to 15 years in prison.
And I believe her husband is on trial shortly or as well.
Very same thing. Very similar
same
conduct. But each of their particular conduct, Dave, are going to be weighed by the jury. What did mom do? What did dad do? How did the kid get the gun? What conversations occurred? And what did they know in those moments before they gave the child that gun?
Look, nothing's going to bring these children back.
Right.
I'm thinking about the parents right now in this moment of the kids who were hurt and those who were killed. They must feel some sense of victory.
Sure.
I would imagine.
Sure, because there's only so much you can do with respect to a child who causes the death, a minor, a juvenile. But maybe other people should be held accountable. And the more that are held accountable, the more that the victims can feel like they've had their day in court, that they've been heard.
And grossly negligent is truly subjective.
Oh, sure. And the jury has to weigh that. That's exactly right. That's the same conduct we have here in Utah when we consider like a drunk driver who kills. Was their driving what we call grossly negligent? Was it worse conduct, worse driving? And in this case, worse parental conduct in handing a child a gun, knowing or having reason to know that child posed a danger to others.
Greg, 20 seconds. I'm sorry, Dave. I just wanted to know what would the application be here in Utah with a verdict in Michigan? Not much of any,
Yeah,
really.
probably not. I mean,
Okay.
every state stands on its own and looks at its own laws and its own conduct, and district attorneys and prosecuting attorneys have to weigh this conduct every time they consider a case like this.
But it certainly opens up the door in the conversation if you purchase your child a gun or if you don't properly secure your gun. Does it leave you open not just to civil litigation, but to criminal liability as well?
Especially if you have reason to know that that child poses a danger to others.
Greg Skordas, thank you. Excellent analysis.
As always, big story developing. Maria will have more on this situation in Michigan that just broke moments ago, and is also tracking the developments in Washington, D.C. on the bipartisan border bill that is on the brink of collapse right now in the Senate.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. KSL News Time is 12 o'clock noon, and this is Utah's Noon News. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top story this hour, and it is developing news. Guilty on all counts. That verdict in the last half hour from Michigan, where the mother of a school shooter stands accused of involuntary manslaughter for what her son did. Here's the latest from ABC News.
This is a special report from ABC News, a verdict in the Michigan trial of Jennifer Crumbley. I'm Derek Dennis. After a day and a half of deliberations, a jury finding Jennifer Crumbley, the mother of Michigan high school shooter Ethan Crumbley, guilty.
We find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
Crumbley was silent and emotionless as her guilty verdict was read. Guilty of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. It marks the first time a parent has been on trial and now convicted in a case related to their child carrying out a mass shooting. Ethan Crumbley opened fire inside Oxford High School in suburban Detroit in 2021, killing 4 students. The jury finding his mother was grossly negligent in caring for her son and failed in his duty as a parent, allowing him to go on his rampage unchecked. Ethan Crumbley, now 17, has already pleaded guilty and is serving life in prison without parole. Jennifer Crumbley faces up to 15 years in prison when she's sentenced at a later date. This is ABC News.
In local news this half hour, a bill being considered by the legislature would put panic buttons into Utah classrooms.
The School Safety Amendments Bill would make significant changes to how we protect students around the Beehive State. One of those changes would add the requirement that a panic alert device that allows for immediate contact with emergency services and law enforcement be added to every classroom across the state. The bill also requires the local education agency, such as a school district or charter school, to ensure law enforcement has access to security cameras. Don Brinkerhoff, KSL News Radio.
President Biden in the last hour criticizing Republicans he says are holding up a compromise bill to send aid to Ukraine and Israel while also shoring up security at the U.S. border.
Frankly, they owe it to the American people to show some spine and do what they know to be right.
He spoke from the White House today to urge agreement on the plan. Among other things, he says it provides critical funding to secure the border. The compromise appears to be dead on arrival, at least in the mind of Republicans who say it doesn't do enough. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin says it's got too much in it that Republicans don't want.
I think this bill is dead, is unfortunate, because every Republican I know serving in Congress wants to secure the border, and we had a real opportunity to do so.
It's unclear if the senators involved in the compromise will be able to go back into negotiations. A federal appeals panel in Washington has ruled unanimously that former President Trump can face prosecution in the election interference case. ABC News Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl shares an excerpt from the more than 50-page ruling.
One is President Trump's stance would collapse our system of separation of powers. We cannot accept that the office of the presidency places its former occupants above the law for all time thereafter.
Former President Trump could appeal this decision to the entire D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals or directly to the U.S. Supreme Court. The state of Utah wants to do its own investigation into the mental state of a death row inmate. Ralph Menzies' lawyers say he's competent to stand trial. KSL News Radio's Jessica Lowell has details.
State prosecutors have filed a petition for the court to appoint 2 mental health experts in Ralph Menzies' case. 2 weeks ago, Menzies' lawyers argued that he shouldn't be executed because he suffers from dementia. Prosecutors say his lawyers filed a petition with MRI imaging and reports from his doctor confirming the diagnosis, but they say the doctor also cited other records that weren't included in the filing. Prosecutors want new doctors involved and want all of their interviews with Menzies recorded.
Menzies has been on death row for 37 years. Is crime really down 32% in the Ballpark neighborhood? The police chief says so, but the community council chair says there's more going on. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe has the story.
Violent crime is down 32% in the Ballpark area, according to Chief Mike Brown. Ballpark Community Council Chair Amy Hawkins says it's not just the police that have helped.
A lot of the change that we've seen in the immediate vicinity in this neighborhood have been economic changes that have been driven in partnership with Salt Lake City police officers. We've seen some of the most notorious businesses in our neighborhood close their doors.
Hawkins tells KSL's Dave and Dujanovic that this economic change has only happened in the last few months, really since November. She also says that property crime is up in the area, so while violent crime is down, overall crime still at about the same rate. Amy Kobabe, KSL News Radio.
Hawkins says she's optimistic this change will last. First look traffic. Good afternoon, Ricky Meese.
Good afternoon, Maria. We are looking at kind of a quiet drive on the Valley freeways where traffic is rolling along with no problems. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL News Time, 12:05.
Join your friends who rely on KSL each morning for the fastest routes to work and school.
I like traffic on the 9s.
So I need to get the kids up earlier so that my son isn't driving quickly in a snowstorm.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s.
On KSL News Radio.
Maybe Washington didn't ski. Maybe Lincoln didn't shred. Okay, could be, but I know they'd have no objections to you taking a run in their honor. So get ready. President's Weekend at Bear Lake is simply the best of Utah and the best place to celebrate our president's big days. You'll uncover 3 of the most beautiful cross-country and snowshoeing trails in Utah, or jump into a snowmobile and catch some awesome trails and over 350 miles of backcountry snowmobiling. No matter how you like your winter sports, Bear Lake is ready, and President's Weekend is the perfect time to celebrate. So pack up the family and play your way. And when you choose President's Day to play in the snow, you'll find family-friendly getaway and lodging deals, too. Start at bearlake.org and learn more about President's Day at Bear Lake. bearlake.org. Lodging, activities, family events, even ice fishing. It's winter at its best, all at Bear Lake. Visit bearlake.org for details. bearlake.org.
Experience classical hits through a new lens. The Utah Symphony presents Masterworks Magnified, themed and fun-filled concert events that take you beyond the music. Are you a book lover? February 2nd and 3rd, discover the world of music inspired by literature. Then on April 26th and 27th, explore the powerful connection between music and motion. Bring a date or a few friends for a night out at downtown Salt Lake City's Abrovnal Hall. Before the concert, grab drinks and specialty concessions and explore themed activities. Then settle into your seat. A host will guide you through the music and captivating visuals will be projected as the orchestra plays. Masterworks Magnified is the perfect first symphony concert or a chance to experience classical music in a new way. Tickets start at $21 at utahsymphony.org/magnified.
Listen to the greatest classical hits from the 1700s to today with the Utah Symphony. Thank you for joining me for Utah's Noon News, recapping our top story this half hour. The mother of a teenager who carried out a school shooting in Michigan was found guilty today of involuntary manslaughter. We'll continue to follow that story for you. KSL News Time, 12:08. Governor Spencer Cox is backing a resolution that rejects a proposed land exchange with the federal government near the Bears Ears National Monument. The state had worked out an understanding on the land trade, but the resolution introduced by Representative Casey Snyder rejects the deal. He claims the state of Utah would manage those lands better than the federal government. Minimum wage could go up in Utah if one lawmaker's bill is approved, but how much it goes up depends on your age. Here's KSL News Radio's Peter Johnston.
Representative Brett Garner wants Utah teens to earn at least $10 an hour for their work. Pay would go up with age until those over 23 years old would receive a minimum of $19 an hour. Garner says he's running this bill to fill a policy gap around housing affordability because he says other lawmakers are focused on making housing cheaper instead of growing people's buying power.
The bill would also require Utah's Division of Labor to raise this every year by at least 25 cents. A string of recent incidents on planes has put the FAA administrator in the hot seat. The ABC's Jay O'Brien has more.
Lawmakers on the House Transportation Committee pressing the FAA administrator on a host of recent aviation issues, including a door plug of a Boeing passenger jet operated by Alaska Airlines blowing off mid-flight.
Well, we've had the recent problems. It's obviously not your fault.